Do I? There we go. I don't know if I
Post
shut that
away.
Yes.
You could be
Hello,
anywhere else tonight, but you're here.
You
watching
are.
us.
So we are happy
Why?
to have you. Welcome to Table Read Tuesday on Tuesday. We are reading Labyrinth today by Terry Jones.
Sir Terry Jones.
Oh, Sir Terry. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I ruined his name. Sir Terry Jones. And we're going to go just introduce ourselves, a quick little introduction, starting with Heather.
Hello, my name is Heather Lee Cameron, and tonight I'll be playing Hat, Blinded Goblin, Knocker number 1, Wild Thing number 3, and Bartender.
Written a film or a TV pilot.
Someone
You need me to do that again?
No, that was good. We heard you. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. And next is Morgan.
Hi, my name is Morgan Tolle, and I'll be playing Jareth.
Thank you. And we've got a newcomer today, Erin Lillis.
Hello, I'm Erin Lillis, and I will be playing Sarah.
Thank you. And Jacob, you're next.
Hello, I'm Jacob Patrick, and I will be playing Hoggle, Father, and Guard.
Thank you. And Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky Dykes, and I'll be playing Face number 2, Brick Keeper, Stupid Goblin, and Junk Woman.
Thank you. And Justin.
Hi, I'm Justin Dobby, and I'm playing pretty much everyone else.
Yes, you are. And Antoinette.
Hello. Narration of the actions descriptions.
Thank you. All right. And with that, we will start.
Labyrinth by Sir Terry Jones. Fade in on exterior sky day. A white bird soaring. The sky is glorious explosion of blue and mauve and lavender. The setting sun washes the clouds with a delicate pink tint. The bird swoops and spirals, and we are right there with him. Then suddenly below us, an extraordinary sight appears. Exterior labyrinth day. It is the labyrinth, an enormous maze of incredible mandala-like intricacy. From our magnificent vantage point, we are barely able to make out its details. The twisting walls interrupted here and there by lush forest, the complex web of waterways, the forbidding castle at the core. It is vast and magical, frightening and compelling at the same time. We would love to linger, perhaps fly lower and get a better look at this wondrous place, but the bird flies on. Exterior glade day. It is an idyllic setting, warm and inviting. The late afternoon sun washes everything with a pink glow. Between the water and a line of lush fruit trees is a flower-strewn glade. A figure emerges from the trees and walks toward the water. It is a young woman dressed in a flowing white dress that swirls around her in the breeze. The pink light burnishes her hair and causes a gold circlet she wears on her head to glow. She's breathtaking, a vision of innocence and grace. She stops to pick a flower and then turns suddenly as if she has heard something.
Is it you?
She takes a few hurried steps and then stops, smiling shyly.
Your Highness.
The girl curtsies deeply, then looks up through lowered lashes, the shy smile still dancing on her lips. And then we pull back to reveal a crown perched on the head of tight curls. We are looking through the crown at the girl as she rises slowly, then boldly at the prince.
Do not be swayed by my pleasure at the sight of you, my lord. For though my father, the Duke, has promised you my hand, I cannot consent to be yours until the evil that stalks our land from highest hill to deepest dale is...
Suddenly the girl stops speaking, a look of stunned confusion on her face.
From the highest hill to the deepest dale... Damn!
She burrows one hand into the deep sleeve of her gown and pulls out a rolled-up softcover book. She rifles through the pages. The prince is not a prince at all, but a sheepdog wearing a tinfoil crown. He thinks his work is over and it's time to play, and he lunges happily toward the girl who isn't a princess or even a duchess, but 15-year-old Sarah. Sarah is knocked over by the playful dog. Beneath the gown, which we can now see is homemade and not very grand at all, we see faded jeans and running shoes.
Get off me, you monster!
The dog grabs the book out of her hand and runs away with it, hoping to be chased. Sarah doesn't follow. She just sits up and pulls the grass out of her tangled hair and sighs with frustration. The dog comes back over to Sarah, its tail wagging hopefully.
If you value your mangy life, Merlin, you'll hand it over.
The dog obediently drops the book. The book. On the cover it says, Meander's Queen, a play in 3 acts by Robin Zaker. Sarah reaches for it and we hear a clock tower begin to chime. Sarah leaps to her feet.
Oh, no, Merlin, we're really late. Oh, why does everything happen to me?
Merlin prances around her happily, his foil crown in his mouth. Sarah pulls it out of his mouth and throws it in a nearby trash basket. He rushes after it and peers into the basket, wanting to fetch.
It's all your fault, you miserable mutt.
She hikes up her dress and runs into the trees. Merlin whimpers and tags along beside her. Exterior, the other side of the trees, day. Sarah comes bursting through the trees and runs down a hill toward the street. We pull back and we can see an enormous steel mill on the other side of the river. And now we notice that the light isn't pink anymore, but sort of dull and hazy. And the idyllic glade is barely a suburban park. And this is just an ordinary day in a very ordinary place. Exterior, an old rambling house, dusk. Sarah runs up to a path to an older rambling house. She goes through the front door, Merlin hot on her heels, and neither one of them sees the beautiful snow-white bird that landed in a tree beside the path. Interior, inside the rouse, evening. Sarah bursts through the front door and makes a beeline for the stairs. She almost makes it. Sarah's mother appears in the hallway.
Sarah, where have you been?
Sarah abruptly stops and changes to an elegantly graceful ascension of the stairs.
I can't talk right now. I'm in rehearsal.
She continues grandly on and heads for her room.
You were supposed to be home an hour ago to babysit Freddie. Don't we at least deserve an explanation?
Sarah stops and leans over the railing. She speaks with a melodramatic solemnity.
As Meander's queen, I've been meandering. Dither me not about explanations.
With that, she turns and heads for her room. On the door is a sign that says, Admittance by invitation only. Sarah's father comes into the hall.
What's that all about?
It's a part in a play. But that's no reason to...
Sarah turns in her doorway. She calls down.
Chasten not your queen, peasant.
She dramatically sweeps into her room. Interior, Sarah's room, night. Sarah slams the door and leans against it, playing the scene.
Sarah, that's no way to talk to your mother.
She's not my mother.
Sarah takes a deep breath and closes her eyes. She can hear footsteps and someone comes to the other side of the door. Sarah ignores her stepmother and kicks off her running shoes. With a practiced gesture, Sarah removes her jeans while leaving the gown in place.
Sarah, when I tell you to be home by 5, I expect you to be home by 5.
Sarah quickly shifts to her stepmother's attitude, hands on hips, and silently mimes her words.
Yes, madame.
Interior, upstairs hallway.
And don't, yes, madame, me.
Is she all right?
Of course she's all right. I left the Bernstein's number on the kitchen table. Freddie might be coming down with a cold, so call us if he even seems even the least bit uncomfortable.
Yes, mother.
Ugh, I give up.
She hurries down the stairs.
We'll see you later, baby. And remember.
Interior, Sarah's room, night. Sarah speaks along with him, mimicking.
Don't open the door to strangers.
We hear him leave. Sarah waits a beat and then turns and opens her bedroom door.
And don't call me baby. Precious little Freddie might be coming down with a cold.
She sighs and looks around. This is really her world, her retreat, and she knows and controls every inch of it. The shelves are filled with an orderly array of childhood dolls and toys. The books are lined up neatly in the bookcase, and if we could see them up close, we would see that they were placed in alphabetical order, and according to the year they were acquired. She walks over to her dresser. She checks herself out in the mirror above the chest of drawers and adjusts the golden circlet which has been knocked askew by her run. She then stops for a moment and looks at the photographs on the dresser. One of her father, her mother, and herself as a little girl. Another picture of her mother and a newspaper clipping taped to the mirror. The headline says, Linda Williams, a smash in a new play. Cover of a playbill is also tacked onto the mirror. It says Best of Both Worlds, starring Linda Williams. Sarah then reverently opens a music box, the kind with a twirling dancer inside, and to the strains of an unbearably tinny version of Greensleeves begins to rehearse.
Do not be swayed by my pleasure at the sight of you, my lord.
Suddenly, something stops her cold.
Someone has been in my room!
Through the mirror, we see what she sees, an empty space on one of the shelves. She swirls around and rushes out the door. Interior, the hallway, night. Sarah bursts out of her room.
Where's Lancelot?
She stomps down the hallway.
Where's my bear?
Interior, nursery, night. Sarah enters Freddie's room. She searches the nursery.
Nobody listens to a thing I say.
She opens a toy box and rifles through it.
How many times have I told them to stay out of my room?
She gets to the crib and looks down. Freddie is wide awake, gurgling at Lancelot, Sarah's tattered old teddy bear.
And you can just give me back my bear.
She yanks it out of the crib and leaves. Freddie looks hurt and his face starts to cloud up. Interior, Sarah's room, night. Sarah is curled up on her bed, cuddling her bear. Merlin sits behind her. She looks at the dog.
You're the only one who understands me, Merlin.
He licks her face. She gets up and holds the bear out in front of her.
Do not be swayed by my pleasure at the sight of you, my lord.
She is interrupted by Freddie's cries.
Go to sleep, Freddie!
The cries get louder. Sarah sighs and repeats her favorite litany.
Oh, why does everything have to happen to me?
Interior, nursery, night. Sarah enters and approaches the howling infant.
I don't need this.
She pulls back the blanket up over him and attempts to tuck him in.
There. Isn't that nice?
But Freddie doesn't think so. He pushes the blanket off and howls even louder. Sarah sees one of his toys on the floor and picks it up and gives it to him. She speaks through gritted teeth.
Want your nice toy?
But Freddie doesn't. He flings the toy across the room. Sarah bends over the crib and speaks softly.
You know, Freddie, I heard that the only thing to do with a baby who won't stop crying is to get some goblins to come over and teach him a lesson.
Freddie lowers his screams to a whimper, but a loud whimper.
How would you like that, kid? A nasty, evil goblin.
Freddie is quiet for a moment, almost as if he is considering. Then he really howls. Sarah sighs and picks him up. She begins to pace back and forth and starts to hum. Freddie goes back to a mere whimper.
Oh, you like that, do you?
She begins to hum even louder and more melodically as she places the baby back into the crib. She then begins one of the most macabre lullabies you could ever imagine. She sings of how scary the dark is and how the shadows on the wall like to eat you when you're small, and how a baby doesn't stand a chance when the goblins start their dance. She throws herself into her performance, adding to it a wild dance that makes her whirling around the room, leaping into the air, making strange shadows appear on the wall. Finally, the dance ends when too many crazed pirouettes result in her stumbling against Freddie's dresser. She staggers a bit, and then the lights blink as a crack of thunder is heard, followed by a flash of lightning. Another angle, little Freddie is wailing. He hasn't understood a thing that Sarah has sung, but he can sense that something is wrong.
Oh, come on, Freddie. It's just a song.
They are interrupted by the sound of a doorbell. Sarah reacts with a gasp of surprise. Freddie, for some inexplicable reason, is suddenly quiet. Interior foyer, night. Sarah approaches the front door with some trepidation. She starts to open it, then realizes what she's doing. She fastens the chain and only opens the door. Exterior house, night. Sarah's point of view. Through the door opening, Sarah can see a very elegantly dressed, quite good-looking man of indeterminate age. He has a worldly air, or is it otherworldly? Before he can speak, a flash of lightning illuminates his face. He is a mesmerizing sight, and Sarah can't help but gawk.
Excuse me, is this the home of Sarah Williams? Sarah Williams, the actress?
Sarah's jaw drops.
That's me.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Robin Zacher.
Sarah squeals with delight.
You wrote the play!
He smiles.
Just a second.
Interior foyer night. Sarah's hand hesitates over the chain for just a moment, and then she unfastens it and opens the door. Zacher enters and extends his hand.
It is an honor, Miss Williams. I understand you'll make a delightful Queen Meander.
Well, we've just started rehearsal, but how did you know?
I was passing through this part of the country and heard that it was going to be done here. This is the first amateur production of the play, which of course is delightful for me.
You know, we were supposed to open tonight, but we got delayed. The firemen had to use the hall.
Yes, I know. That's why I wanted to stop by and see you.
They are interrupted by a particularly loud crash from upstairs, and then Freddie begins to howl.
That's my brother.
There is another crash, and Sarah starts up the stairs.
I'll be right back.
Zacher watches her run up the stairs. He glances around and then walks right to the liquor cabinet and takes out a bottle. Interior nursery night. Freddie is standing in his crib, crying his eyes out. Sarah rushes in and sees that the storm has blown open the basement window and it is crashing against the wall. Sarah rushes to close it. Freddie's screams are piteous.
Oh, Freddie.
There's more thunder, then lightning flashes across the darkened room.
Perhaps I can soothe him.
Sarah gasps and whirls around. Zacher is framed in the doorway. He has a drink in his hand. Sarah holds the baby close.
You shouldn't be up here.
I just wanted to help.
Sarah rushes by him, still clutching the baby. Interior hallway night. Sarah comes out of the nursery and hurries down the stairs. Zacher follows. Freddie is still crying.
Maybe you'd better leave.
She gets to the bottom of the stairs. Freddie whimpers. Zacher is making her very nervous.
I don't think I care to talk to you about the play.
He's right behind her, almost too close.
Neither do I.
Sarah is shocked and disturbed by this.
What?
Zacher reaches over and smooths Freddie's hair.
I'm more concerned about the baby, of course.
Sarah pulls Freddie out of his reach.
Freddie's just fine.
But he isn't. He's still crying. Zacher reaches into his pocket and pulls out a coin. He runs it over his fingers right in front of Freddie's face. The baby stops crying.
There. Isn't that better?
Sure. But you really have to leave.
Zacher ignores her and heads into the living room.
I'm not just a playwright, as you can see. Bring him in here, and I'll do some other tricks for him.
No, you've got to...
But he's already in the living room. She follows, still holding the baby. Interior living room night. Zacher is sitting on the sofa, looking very comfortable. Sarah stands in the doorway, not sure what to do. Reluctantly, she goes and sits down across from him.
Now, watch this, Freddie.
He reaches into his breast pocket and tugs on the handkerchief there. It comes out, followed by many others, all different colors. Sarah rolls her eyes. This is not that exciting a trick. Freddie isn't impressed either. In fact, he starts to cry again.
So, you're going to be like that, are you, Freddie? Well, do you know what that means?
He leans across the table and Sarah pulls the baby closer.
It's time to call the Goblins.
What?
Sarah is surprised to hear this, to say the least. It echoes her silly threat to Freddie earlier.
Yes, that's what we do with bad babies. We send for the Goblins.
And with that, he reaches into yet another pocket and pulls out a poorly made, very silly-looking goblin hand puppet. Sarah laughs with relief. Zacher, his hand in the puppet, talks in a high-pitched, unconvincing goblin voice.
You like goblins, don't you, Freddie? I bet your sister doesn't.
Sarah rolls her eyes at this, then gasps. Because for one very strange moment, the puppet keeps bouncing, but for both of Zacher's hands are visible. And then the puppet seems to move away from the table and disappear. Freddie claps his hands with delight. Sarah jumps out of her chair.
Where is it?
Zacher points to a large cabinet against the wall.
It's in there.
Impossible.
See for yourself.
Sarah hesitates for a moment and then places Freddie carefully on the rug. She then marches over to the cabinet and throws open the door. Another angle, the puppet grinning widely from inside the cabinet. Sarah gasps and involuntarily slams the door. She whirls around to face Zaker.
How did you do that?
Zaker leans back into the sofa.
Magic.
Oh, sure.
She nods skeptically. She can't see, but we can definitely see the cabinet door slowly open behind her, and out of it comes a tiny, fierce-looking goblin. This is not a puppet, but a living creature that moves quickly out of sight with an exaggerated tiptoe. Sarah is busy with another problem. She doesn't see Freddy.
Where's Freddy?
Zaker shrugs. In a panic, Sarah begins to look around the room. She calls for Freddy, and as she pauses in front of the living room doorway, we can see something scurry across the hallway. Sarah stops and listens.
Freddy?
But it wasn't a baby she heard. Behind her, there is more scurrying as creatures begin to appear from various parts of the room. We hear faint snickering. She turns to Zaker, terrified.
Where is he?
Zaker points to the chair Sarah was sitting in. She's behind the chair and can't see anything. But when she comes around in front of the chair, it is Freddy comfortably ensconced in the cushions. And he's playing with the goblin puppet. Sarah reaches over and grabs the puppet out of his hands. She flings it across the room and scoops up the baby.
Who are you?
Zaker throws back his head and laughs, then suddenly leaps off the sofa and lands very close to her.
Ha ha ha! I've been known by many names, but the one I prefer is Jareth, King of the Goblins.
Sarah holds Freddy close and backs away.
I don't believe this.
Amidst the thunder and lightning, Jareth flings his arms up into the air, and he is suddenly dressed in strange medieval garb, a cloak swirling around him. And what's worse, much, much worse, is that suddenly goblins are everywhere. Popping out of drawers, from under chairs, swinging off the chandeliers, Sarah turns and runs out of the room. Interior foyer night. It's worse in here. The goblins are pouring down the stairs, some slide down the banister. Sarah tries running into another room, but is soon back, followed by a dozen more. She barely makes it to the front door and struggles to open it with the baby in her arms. The goblins pull her back and laugh wildly. They fling her right into Jareth's arms. He scoops up Freddy and whirls him away from her. Sarah tries to grab the baby back, but the goblins get between them.
Give him back, you monster! Give him back!
Jareth only laughs and starts to swirl gracefully. Freddy laughs with delight, and Sarah struggles to reach him. With a superhuman effort, she pushes through the mass of creatures and grabs onto Jareth's fluttering cloak. It's like being caught up in a whirlwind of incredible force.
I won't let you take him!
But it's too late. Sarah's feet leave the ground, and she is pulled with them and the whole mass of goblins. Jareth and Freddy swirl up through where the ceiling would have been, up into the blackness. There is a quick montage of shots. Jareth's laughing face. Sarah, despite her fingers, are losing their grip. Freddy, who's having a great time. Goblins, all gleeful. Then Jareth's garment pulls out of Sarah's grip. She falls out of frame, a silent scream on her face. Exterior labyrinth day. A wide, peaceful shot. The sky is pink, and the white bird swoops by us as we tilt down to see their exterior wall of the labyrinth. It is a high masonry wall that extends off in either direction. Along the wall are various ornamental bushes, and there is a small figure of a dwarf, his back to us, peeing into a tiny pond. It looks for all the world like one of those ornamental garden sculptures, but it isn't. This is Hoggle. In a closer shot, which is quite discreet, Hoggle finishes peeing and goes over to a particularly lush shrub. A few butterfly-like creatures, flower fairies, flit around the bushes.
And how's my pride and joy?
He leans forward to sniff one of the magnificent blossoms, sighing with pleasure as he does. But before he can indulge, he is spotted by the whistling sound of a falling object. Sarah falls from the sky and lands right on his prize shrub. Incensed, he screams with fury.
What is this? Look what you've done! You murderer!
Sarah struggles out of the broken shrub.
What are you saying, you horrible little man?
I ain't horrible. I'm Hoggle. And just look, you destroyed my prize blossoms.
He realizes the extent of the damage to his prized specimen.
I'll get you for it, you big oaf.
And he picks up a spray can and goes after Sarah, but she's had enough. After the nightmarish kidnapping of Freddy and a drop from the deepest space, this guy is child's play. She reaches out and pulls the can from Hoggle's hands. Then she grabs him by the shirt front and practically lifts him off the ground.
Oh, no, you don't. If anyone's getting anything around here, it's me. Now, where is my brother?
I ain't saying nothing till you let me go.
Sarah sighs and lets go.
I'm sorry, but this just hasn't been my day.
Hoggle looks at his crushed shrub again.
You ain't the only one.
Sarah ignores him and stares at the massive wall behind them.
And I don't understand any of this.
Hoggle shakes his head and sighs.
Now, where have I heard that before?
What do you mean?
I mean, everyone who comes here thinking they can make it through the labyrinth says something like that. I don't understand this. Wherever am I doing here? How will I ever get home?
What makes you think I'm here to get through a labyrinth?
Hoggle shakes his head again.
Can't think of any reason why you'd be standing here in front of this gate if you weren't.
Sarah doesn't understand what he's talking about, but when she looks up, she can't believe her eyes. Another angle, a huge gate, where just a moment ago there was nothing but smooth, endless wall. Sarah gulps in disbelief. Then the huge wooden doors fly open and a terrified creature runs out, full speed, screaming for his life. Right behind him come two menacing goblins riding on strange beasts. They are armed and dangerous looking. They quickly catch up with the creature and drag him, screaming piteously, back through the gate. Before the gate closes, Sarah can see more goblins, what seems like hundreds of them. Some are mounted, most of them are armed, and beyond them, a walled passageway that seems to go on forever. The wooden door slams shut.
Oh no, not more goblins!
That's Jareth's goblin army, and the other poor fool must have been caught mandering where he had no business.
What will they do to him?
I don't like to think about things like that.
Sarah shudders.
I wonder if things can get any worse.
Hoggle sighs knowingly.
He's taken something of yours, ain't he?
Sarah is clearly surprised.
Jareth, our high and mighty king.
Sarah nods, excited that someone has a grasp of the situation.
But he's gone, and he's taken something you love.
Close. He's got my baby brother.
Hoggle laughs derisively.
Baby snatching? That's low.
So I've just got to do something.
Like what?
Get Freddy back, of course.
Then you'd have to make it through the labyrinth, because Jareth's castle is at the very center.
Sarah looks at the gates and gulps.
Is it difficult?
Hoggle snorts with derision.
It's me prize shrub crushed into oblivion?
Sarah is reaching the breaking point.
Look, I'm sorry about your bush, but it's not like I asked to have some weirdo come and take my baby brother and then drop me out of the sky.
Well, I didn't ask for some overgrown flower fairy to be dropped on my prized possession, neither.
This is ridiculous.
And she stalks off to the gate, mumbling all the way.
Standing here wasting my time talking to some weird guy who should be living under a bridge.
She's almost at the gate when she freezes with fear. Through the gate, she can hear the cheers and jeers of the goblins and what might be the wailing of their poor captive. There's no way she wants to risk facing that horrific crew. Hoggle has come up behind her, and as she backs away from the gate, she bumps into him. She shrieks and whirls around.
That ain't the only way in, you know.
Sarah is very relieved to hear this.
It's not.
Course it ain't. There's many a route in just only one way out.
Well, show me one. Gotta find my brother.
Hoggle sighs impatiently. He fingers a belt that he wears, rattling it in an obvious manner. In it, hung with every kind of watch and bracelet and ring you can imagine.
Information like this has a price.
Sarah, taken aback by the amount of loot he's acquired.
I could give you this.
She takes off the gold circlet off her hand. Hoggle isn't interested.
I had something, this caliber in mind.
He takes her hand, and we see that she is wearing a beautiful ruby ring. Sarah shakes her head vehemently.
No, my mother gave me that.
Hoggle eyes it greedily.
She could give you another.
No, she couldn't. She lives really far away.
The sadness disappears just as suddenly. She holds out the circlet.
This is all you get.
He grabs it, the circlet, and bites it.
Bah, it's paste.
Something catches Sarah's eye. It's one of the tiny flower fairies. She leans over for a better look.
No, it's not. It's plastic.
Hoggle's eyes light up at that, and he grunts with satisfaction as he strings the circlet onto his belt. Sarah reaches out her hand to the fairy.
What a beautiful little thing.
Hoggle reaches for the spray can.
Let me at it.
Sarah is enraged.
You murderer! How can you kill such beautiful creatures?
Just then, the fairy gives Sarah a vicious bite. She shakes it off her hand and cries out in pain.
Ow! It bit me!
Hoggle quickly sprays the offending fairy, and it falls to the earth, screaming all the way.
Of course it bit you. There's nothing more vicious than a flower fairy. Any fool knows that.
Sarah sucks on her wounded hand and tries not to cry.
But you don't know nothing, do ya?
A tear trickles down Sarah's cheek. Hoggle sighs.
I got a feeling I'm going to regret this. Come with me, and I'll show you a way in.
Sarah hurries after him. As they walk along the endless wall, Hoggle looks at the circlet and polishes it on his sleeve.
Plastic.
Exterior Labyrinth Day. Another part of the wall. Hoggle pushes a bush aside and shows Sarah a tiny door. She looks at it dubiously.
This'll take you into the maze. That's the first part of the labyrinth.
The first part? What comes after that?
Hoggle gets down on his knees and starts to crawl through the door.
There's the garden maze, then the forbidden forest.
Oh, that sounds inviting.
He's through the door. He's still talking, but Sarah can't hear him. She tries quickly to follow.
Wait! I can't hear you!
Interior Labyrinth Day. Hoggle is through the door.
Then comes the castle.
Sarah's head appears.
That's surely where Jareth is keeping the babe.
He looks down at Sarah, and she's through the door to her waist and straining to get the rest of herself through. Hoggle sighs and grabs her hand. With a groan, he tugs her and pulls her through the doorway. She lands flat on her face.
You don't seem to be able to do nothing without my help, do ya?
He chuckles, and Sarah gives him a look that could kill as she gets up and dusts herself off. She looks around the environment and seems rather benign. The brick walls are open to the sky. Here and there, a flower peeks through a crack.
Oh, I think I can handle it. In fact, this place doesn't seem so bad at all.
And with that, she jauntily heads down the nearest corridor. Interior Corridor 1, Day. Sarah turns a corner and comes face to face with a face. It is huge and grotesque and protrudes out of the wall.
Go back! Go back before it's too late!
Sarah screams and backs away from it, moving further down the corridor. She backs into something and whirls around. It's another face.
Turn back while you still can.
Sarah turns and runs back the way she came.
Hoggle!
Interior Labyrinth Day. Hoggle is still standing by the door, an amused smile on his face. Sarah comes rushing toward him.
Oh, I'm so glad you're still here. They were horrible.
Hoggle says,
You don't mean the false alarms, do ya?
He shakes his head and goes off in the direction that Sarah just came from.
If you're gonna let a little thing like that keep scare ya, missy, you ain't having a hope of making it into the castle.
Sarah quickly follows.
False alarms?
Interior Corridor Day 1, Day. The corridor of faces. Hoggle enters. The faces start in on their routine. Sarah comes up behind him, shuddering at the ghastly sight.
This is the path of no return.
Beware! Beware!
Just ignore them.
Are you sure?
Hoggle sighs and turns to the next face.
Abandon all hope.
Oh, shut up, will ya?
Sarah is wide-eyed at Hoggle's defiance.
But I was just getting to the best part.
All right, but don't expect us to pay any attention.
You're going to love this. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, for this is the road to destruction!
Very nice.
Sarah is dumbstruck. Hoggle takes her hand and yanks her along.
Come back anytime. I mean, you're doomed! Doomed!
Interior Corridor 2, day. Hoggle and Sarah continuing down a similar corridor.
You see, things aren't always what they appear to be around here, Missy.
Whatever. All I'm interested in is getting my brother back from that creep.
Sarah starts to look around for something.
I admire your determination, but it takes more than that to beat Jareth.
Sarah picks up a rock.
Well, maybe I'm beginning to get the hang of this labyrinth business.
She takes the rock and uses it to mark an X on the floor.
See? Now I'll know which way we came in case I get lost.
Missy, going back the way you came is par for the course around here. What you want to do is go forward.
Look, Hoggle, I've got to find Freddy, and I don't need you to discourage me.
And I don't need you to be wasting me time going around in circles with you.
It's fine with me. I know you're only after my ring anyway.
She turns a corner and Hoggle looks after her, hurt and pity crossing his face. He takes a few steps in her direction, and a vicious little creature, a brick keeper, emerges from the brickwork of the floor, takes out the cobblestone that Sarah marked, and replaces it with the marked side hidden. It looks up at Hoggle.
Some people got no respect for property.
Hoggle sticks his tongue out at the creature as it goes back into its hole. Exterior aerial shot, day. The white bird flies over the maze, and we see Sarah marching along. She thinks she's going forward, but she's heading right for Hoggle. Interior Corridor 2, day. Sarah emerges into the corridor and comes face to face with Hoggle.
But
she whirls around to look behind her, then back at Hoggle again.
But you were just behind me. I'm sure of it.
Hoggle shakes his head as she runs by him and looks down at the floor.
My mark! It was right there!
Hoggle comes up beside her.
I told you, Missy. Things aren't always what they appear to be around here.
Except when they are.
Another angle, Jareth in all his glory. Sarah and Hoggle whirled around and both gasp with surprise and fear.
We again, Sarah.
Where's Freddy? What have you done with him?
She starts to rush toward Jareth, but Hoggle holds her back.
Nothing yet.
He walks toward them, and they automatically step backwards. He looks down at Hoggle.
And what have we here? Hog heat, isn't it?
Hoggle is humiliated.
Me name is Hoggle.
Ah, yes. Now I remember. You're the greedy little coward who lives outside the gate. Shouldn't you be getting back to your business, hedgehog?
He chucks Hoggle under the chin, and it's quite rough about it. Hoggle fumes silently. Sarah doesn't like this.
What? Why don't you pick on someone your own size?
He looks her up and down.
Whom do you have in mind?
Sarah tries to brazen it out.
I don't have time for games. I want Freddy, and I want him now.
Jareth throws back his head and laughs.
Ah, Freddy, an adorable little imp. I'm really growing rather fond of him.
Where is he?
He's in my castle, and he seems to be enjoying himself immensely.
He ambles toward them, and they can't help themselves. They both step backwards.
In fact, he likes being with the goblins so much, I'm considering turning him into one.
Sarah thinks this is crazy.
You can't do that.
Oh, yes, I can.
Sarah looks down at Hoggle and speaks under her breath.
Can he?
Hoggle nods glumly.
But let's make this interesting. I won't do it for 13 hours. If you can make it to the castle before, you might be able to save him. If not, well, I think little Freddy will make an adorable goblin prince. Don't you?
He laughs and holds up both hands, and we see they are empty. He then closes them, and when he opens them again, there is a gold watch in one hand. He throws it to Sarah, but Hoggle intercepts it and eyes it greedily. Annoyed, Sarah snatches it out of his hand. She looks at it and sees that it has 13 hours marked on it. When she looks up again, Jareth is gone.
Well, good riddance to bad rubbish.
Sarah and Hoggle both jump up and then look at where the voice is coming from. It's a little worm poking its head out of a hole in the brickwork.
Well, that's what the missus always says she does. Why is the last time she found out the one around here set him packing?
Jareth?
Oh, she don't take for his kind of nonsense, that's for sure. Now, how about a nice cup of tea, eh? The missus has the kettle on.
Sarah looks down at Hoggle, who shrugs. She then looks up at the worm and gives him a beaming smile. Interior, corridor 2, day. Sarah and Hoggle are sitting on the floor.
Do you think Jareth will give Freddy back if I make it on time?
It's hard to say, Missy, but if I were you, I'd worry. Well, first things first.
What do you mean?
I means you got to find the castle before you can go saving the babe, and I mean to see that you do.
Sarah is thrilled and leans over and gives him a kiss on the cheek.
Oh, Hoggle. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hoggle gets all flustered and tries to act gruff.
Seems to me you could be getting that ring from you after all I plays me cards right.
Sarah regards him affectionately.
I know you don't mean that. You're helping me because you're really nice.
I ain't nice. I just likes the way you stood up to him, that's all. It's too bad more of us haven't had the guts to do the same.
The worm reappears.
So, how about a biscuit? The missus just took a fresh batch out of the oven.
Thanks, but we really don't have any time. We've got to get to the castle.
You wouldn't happen to know a shortcut, would you?
Well, you might try taking that first left.
Sarah and Hoggle look down the corridor.
But there isn't any left turn.
Just then, a strange figure seems to come through the left wall and walks toward them. He's dressed in long flowing robes and wears a hat shaped like a bird.
See, there's a left turn right there, where the wise one just came in.
A wise one? Oh, maybe he knows the best way to the castle.
I wouldn't bet on it.
But Sarah is excited about the possibility of getting more help.
Excuse me, sir, could you tell us the best way to get to the castle?
Way to the castle. I'm glad you asked that question.
To Sarah's and Hoggle's surprise, the hat joins into the conversation.
Now you've done it. Gone and asked him a question. We'll be here all day.
A castle or fortress, or as it is sometimes known, a stronghold or citadel, or that which has a turret and barbican, but usually not a portcullis.
What did I tell you? There's no stuffing him now.
Often there's a rampart or a bulwark, and then there's a parapet, perchance an actual vellum or counterscarp.
Shut up down there!
And for entrenchment, a moat, drawbridge, and sallyport.
Sarah looks at Hoggle.
This was not one of my better ideas.
Well, I told you that, didn't I? But nobody ever listens to me.
He still looks down at the still mumbling wise one.
Enough! Nobody cares!
The wise one blinks and looks at Sarah and Hoggle.
Did one of you say something?
Sarah thinks quickly.
Oh, no, we never talk to strangers.
Very wise. An idea worth savoring.
Hoggle nudges him.
Yeah, but I'd keep it under your hat.
Hoggle thinks this is hilarious. The hat doesn't.
Very funny.
The wise one continues on his way.
The stranger, I'm glad you brought that up. The stranger, one not indigenous, also known as the alien, or one from beyond the sea.
I quit. I can't take it anymore.
And then they are gone, passing through the right-hand wall as if it wasn't there. Sarah watches after them, stunned.
How did he do that?
And how can we make sure he doesn't come back?
Sarah gives him a look, which turns to the worm.
Oh, just go over that bit of wall there and walk right through it. The important thing is to forget what you think you know. Doesn't aptly apply around here.
Sarah and Hoggle walk down to the part of the wall where the wise one entered. Once there, they can see that a section of the wall is actually a passageway behind the rest of the wall. Sarah yells back to the worm.
Thank you. And tell the missus we're sorry we missed her biscuits.
And then they walk through the wall and they are gone. Interior corridor 3, day. Sarah and Hoggle appear through the wall and Sarah laughs with delight. Hoggle wasn't as pleased with the experience and feels the wall as if they were testing to see if it really happened. Sarah sees that they are in a corridor where the walls are crumbling and she climbs to the top of one and looks over. Another angle, Sarah's point of view, the turrets of the castle.
I can see the castle. It doesn't look far at all.
Hoggle is still feeling around the wall, trying to figure out how they got there. Sarah jumps down and starts to run down the corridor.
Come on, Hoggle, let's go.
Hoggle sees her retreating figure and hurries after her. Interior castle day. Jareth's great hall. He stands by a window and looks over at the labyrinth. From this vantage point, he can see clear across it the hovels that surround the castle walls, the arid plain that leads to the dense forest, encircling that, the complex maze. He seems lost in thought. The white bird enters the window and lands on his shoulder. Behind him, Freddy is having a grand time. His slippery crawl is too much for the goblins that scurry about, trying to mind him. Meanwhile, a particularly stupid-looking goblin begins to approach Jareth. He saunters across the room and is stopped short by a female goblin. She grabs hold of his shirt and hisses a warning.
Remember, it's bow and scrape, bow and scrape.
The stupid goblin nods and she lets him go. He then continues his approach to Jareth, only this time he does a little bow and then scrapes his foot across the floor, then repeats the action.
Bow and scrape, bow and scrape.
Jareth turns and sees the goblin.
Well, what is it?
The goblin can't answer and do his bow and scrape at the same time, so he continues his painfully slow approach.
Bow and scrape, bow and scrape.
Annoyed, Jareth walks over to the goblin and lifts him up by his shirt front. The goblin is still bowing.
I said, what is it?
The girl in Hoggle's sire. They're halfway through the maze.
Jareth drops the goblin hard on the floor. Freddy sees this and laughs with delight. Jareth walks over and scoops the baby up on his arms. Then he carries him over to the window. He calls over to an armed goblin by the door.
I think it's time they had some company.
Yes, sir.
Then he salutes, causing his visor to close on his face, then stumbles around looking for the door. Jareth shakes his head.
You'll make such a better goblin than that, won't you, Freddy?
Freddy's response is to clap his sticky baby's hands onto Jareth's face. Jareth, pretending he doesn't mind, carefully removes it. He then looks down to the courtyard below. Exterior castle day. Jareth's point of view. Armed goblins are pouring out of the castle. Exterior corridor 4 day. Sarah and Hoggle are striding down a corridor. They are about to come to a corner.
Are you sure Jareth can turn Freddy into a goblin? I mean, that's really weird.
They turn the corner and Hoggle stops short. Sarah becomes alarmed.
What is it?
Hoggle gestures for her to be quiet, and then we can hear what he hears, marching. They look back the way they came. Another angle, Sarah and Hoggle's point of view, a battalion of armed goblins marching right towards them. Another angle. They look at each other and then turn and run. Hoggle tries to get through the wall the way the worm showed him.
Just forget what you think you know and...
He smacks headlong into the wall. He stops to rub his nose and Sarah flies by him.
Come on!
Interior castle day. Freddy is now sitting on the lap of a goblin, happily bopping it on the nose. Jareth snaps his fingers and a group of sleepy musicians in the corner stumble over themselves to pick up their instruments. They begin to play and Jareth looks out the window and begins a song. He sings about the labyrinth, what it is, his domain, what it is to others, a test, a proving ground not for the faint of heart, interior maze montage day. While Jareth sings, Sarah and Hoggle try to escape from the goblins. They get a lead on them for a while and then come to another corridor with crumbling walls. They scamper up to get a look at their position and see dust rising from several parts of the maze. The goblins are everywhere. In another corridor, they are stopped in their tracks by dozens of little fuzzy creatures who scurry towards them out of the way of the oncoming goblins. They turn and run back the way they came as they do wall creatures, chatter nervously, and then disappear into the cracks between the bricks. In a corridor with very short walls, they were able to see the tips of the spears on either side of them going in opposite direction. They enter a corridor with several arches curving over it, forming small intermittent bridges. Thinking they are safe, they stop for a breath and soon realize that a battalion is right behind them. They scurry up the walls, and as the song comes to an end, they each lie across the arch, hopefully out of sight of the goblins' view. Interior arched corridor day. Sarah and Huggle huddle above the corridor on their arches as two goblins bring up the rear.
I can do better than you can.
But I'm better at maiming. Everybody says so.
And they are gone. Shaken, Sarah and Huggle slide down from their hiding places.
Do you think they're gone?
Sure they are. Goblins aren't known for their intelligence, you know. They has as much trouble finding their way through the maze as you do.
He folds his arms and leans against the wall.
I'm not sure, but I think you just called me stupid.
Suddenly, Hoggle yells and disappears. He has accidentally leaned on another secret wall opening. Sarah quickly follows. Interior corridor 5, day. Hoggle and Sarah are now in the long circular corridor that divides the maze from the beginning of the second ring of the labyrinth, the garden maze.
I think I know where we are.
That'll be a nice change.
He ignores her and looks around excitedly.
This place is the end of the maze. That means we're near the entrance of the second ring of the labyrinth.
The second ring? What's that?
Hoggle starts down the corridor.
The garden maze.
Sounds like a great place. What's it like?
Don't know. I never made it this far before.
He's skipping happily down the corridor when Sarah hears something. It's a strange clanking sound.
Hoggle, what's that sound?
Hoggle stops skipping and sighs.
Now, don't go getting all girly on me, Missy. Now that we're finally safe.
So you think we're safe, do you?
Didn't I just say so?
Then tell me what you think of that.
Sarah points behind him to where the clanking noise is coming from. It's now much louder. Hoggle comes over to her and takes a better look. He screams. Another angle, their point of view, a slashing machine, is coming right towards them. A slashing wall is made up of rows of furiously spinning knives and chopping cleavers, and has brushes along the bottom to clean up whatever it encounters in its path. And there is no way around it because it completely fills the corridor. Another angle, Hoggle desperately tries to walk through the wall the way they came in, but it is to no avail. He just keeps smashing his face. Sarah starts to run for it.
Come on!
Hoggle follows every so often, trying and failing to get through the wall. Another angle, Sarah, who is far ahead of Hoggle, comes to a door. And hanging on a hook next to it is a bunch of keys. She looks back at Hoggle.
Hoggle, hurry!
Another angle, Sarah's point of view. Hoggle running toward her and making slow but steady progress toward them both is the slashing machine. Another angle, Sarah fumbles with keys, furiously trying key after key in the door, but to no avail. She's terrified.
None of the keys work!
Desperate, she starts banging on the door. Hoggle is just a few yards away from her.
Why don't you just try it?
He then tries once more to walk through the wall. Sarah tries the knob, and sure enough, it opens. She's delighted. What she doesn't see is Hoggle suddenly disappearing through the floor.
It's open! Hog!
She turns around, and he's gone, and the slashing machine is just a few yards away. She screams and in her terror falls backward through the door. It slams shut just as the slashing machine reaches it. We can see that 4 goblins in sanitation workers' uniforms have been pushing the machine all along. They grunt and strain, cranking the wheels that turns the knives and pushing all at the same time. Interior picture gallery day. Sarah emerges into a large room. The walls are covered with large paintings in ornate gilt frames. She's a bit stunned by the clone call with the slashing machine, and she approaches the first painting.
What in the world?
She stops short in front of the first painting and cannot believe her eyes. It's a painting of the watch with 13 hours on it. The hour hand is on the 9. Sarah fumbles into her pocket and finds the watch that Jareth gave her. It also has the hour hand on the 9.
Only 9 hours left.
The next picture is of a baby surrounded by gruesome goblins. On a closer inspection, the baby is obviously Freddy. She chokes back a sob and runs over to the next one. It's a picture of a rotunda with staircases going off in all different directions on different planes of gravity. It's an Escher room, and a closer look shows a goblin happily standing on the ceiling. She shakes her head, goes by the next painting, and gasps involuntarily. It's a compelling portrait of Jareth, and she moves even closer. Then she shakes herself out of it. Another angle, the portrait's point of view. Sarah wills herself and moves on, and she can hear the sound of Jareth's breathing. Another angle, Sarah is nervous and eagerly looks for a way out. She rushes by another painting, giving it merely a glance, but something makes her go back for a better look. It is of a lovely manicured hedge maze. In the distance, we can see the turrets of Jareth's castle, and in the sky nearby flies a beautiful white bird. Then Sarah is amazed by what she sees. A closer look at the painting reveals that the white bird is flying. It moves over the hedges, and we see a figure waving.
Hoggle!
Sarah, disturbed, backs away from the painting, and then, because it really is as wonderful as it is scary, she goes back for another look, and over her shoulder we can see Hoggle waving, and we hear his tiny voice.
Missy, over here. This is the way to the castle.
And Sarah strains to hear and leans toward the painting, stretching her hand out and touching the painting, which makes it turn into a shimmering wall that her hand goes right through. And then she disappears right through the painting. Another angle, the gallery, and Jareth's portrait is now blank. Exterior hedge maze day. Sarah rushes up to Hoggle and throws her arms around him.
What happened to you? I was afraid I'd never see you again.
You know that trick with the wall? Dang if it didn't work with the floor as well.
Sarah laughs and hugs him again. Interior hedge maze day. Sarah and Hoggle have been walking through the maze a long time. They're tired and bedraggled. Sarah pulls the watch out of her pocket and sighs.
An hour's gone by, and I don't think we're more than 4 feet from where we started.
That's 'cause you won't do what I tell you. It's clear as day. We should be going this way.
He turns a corner and walks smack into a hedge dead end. He howls in pain, and Sarah sighs and follows him. Another angle, Hoggle disentangled himself from the hedge.
Got any more suggestions?
Before Hoggle can answer, they are interrupted by a terrible, gut-wrenching scream. It's positively unearthly. Sarah whirls around.
It sounds like it came from over there.
Hoggle points in the opposite direction.
Well, then let's go this way.
Sarah frowns at him as the scream begins again.
Hoggle, it sounds like someone's being hurt.
Exactly why we should be heading in the othermost direction.
Sarah shakes her head in disgust and runs off as the screams become more unbearable. Another angle, Sarah is running through the hedge maze. Driven by the sound of the screams, she has an unconscious ability to find her way through. Hoggle, trying to keep up with her, keeps running into dead ends. Another angle, Sarah emerging from the maze. She's stopped in her tracks by what she sees and quickly covers her mouth to prevent herself from screaming. Hoggle emerges a moment later, barely pauses before he heads right back into the maze.
And that's our intermission time.
Woo!
Welcome, guys.
Deep in the middle of the maze.
What time are we coming back?
So in 5 minutes, for me, it's 8:08 for you guys, 7:08 or wherever you are.
10:08.
8:08.
Yeah.
08.
And we
Okay.
might be in the middle of the 8, so let's put to 9.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So see you guys at 7:09, 8:09, 9:09, 10:09, etc.
See you shortly.
Bye, everybody.
And welcome back,
Yay!
everyone. Welcome back. And we are all here, so we can start up when you're ready, Tony.
Exterior clearing day. Sarah's point of view. 4 goblins are torturing a huge creature, Ludo, that they've hung by his ankle from a tree limb. They've also taken pains to bind the creature, who it's obvious could take in most of them and win in a fairer fight. He's about 9 feet tall, powerfully built, and his screams are truly unbearable. The goblins have devised a unique method of harassing him. They all carry long sticks which have small, fierce, biting creatures on the ends of them. The goblins bat their sticks at Ludo, who bellows and tries to swat back. Since he's tied, the nippers are free to bite wherever they get near. Another angle, Sarah, distraught, peeking out from behind a hedge.
The poor thing.
Hoggle peeks out from behind Sarah, then quickly ducks back. Sarah looks for a way to stop the torture. She picks up a rock and carefully aims it at the nearest goblin. It hits his head and knocks his helmet visor over his eyes. Blinded, the goblin lurches around, swinging his nipper stick at the other 3.
Hey, who turned out the lights?
The other goblins see a new target and poke their nipper sticks towards him. He takes off and runs blindly into the hedge maze. The other 3 chase him, carrying the nipper sticks upright, now that we can see their progress in the background. Another angle, Sarah desperately tries to untie the huge knot that holds Ludo suspended upside down. She can't undo it and yells for Hoggle.
Get out here, you coward!
Hoggle appears from behind his hedge. He hesitates, then pulls a dagger from his belt and joins Sarah. He cuts through the rope in one hack, and Ludo falls to the ground with a thud. Another angle. The nipper sticks start yammering away as they see Sarah and Hoggle freeing Ludo over the top of the hedge. The goblin chase stops, and they head back to the clearing. Hoggle dives for the bushes, but a determined Sarah stays and pulls off the ropes. When Ludo is free, he picks up a huge log. As the 4 goblins come roaring back into the clearing, Ludo waves the log over his head. The goblin charge immediately shifts into a goblin retreat, the nipper sticks yipping in fear. Another angle, Ludo puts down the log and sits, his big, shaggy head hanging down. He's taken one hand and wipes away a tear.
Ludo hurt.
Sarah's heart breaks. This thing is the ultimate stuffed animal.
Is that your name, Ludo?
He nods and wipes away another tear.
Goblins mean to Ludo.
Oh, I know. They were terribly mean to you. But it's all right now.
Ludo sniffs, then breaks into the most endearing big dumb smile you've ever seen.
Friend.
That's right, Ludo. I'm your friend. I'm Sarah.
Sarah. Friend.
Hoggle has come out from hiding during this exchange. He finds the whole scene a bit nauseating and an unnecessary nuisance. If there's one thing he doesn't want, it's competition for Sarah.
I think I'm about to be sick.
They ignore him, and Ludo grins for all he's worth as Sarah beams at him. Hoggle pulls over to one side.
I hope you're not thinking of letting the beast trap eyes along, Missy. He'll just slow us up.
Are you kidding? He'll be a great help. The goblins are scared of him because he's so fierce.
Just then, Ludo shyly offers Sarah a flower that he has just picked for her. She smiles and she takes it and smiles at him.
I sees what you mean.
Sarah shrugs and gives Ludo a pat. Hoggle sighs with frustration.
I just thinks we was doing fine on our own.
And we can do even better with Ludo. You want to help me save my baby brother, don't you, Ludo?
Save. Baby. Good.
Sarah nods with satisfaction and strides into the bridge maze. Ludo right behind her. Hoggle follows, clearly unhappy. Exterior Forest Gate Day. Sarah, Hoggle, and Ludo come out of the hedge maze and see a wall with 2 Sarah-sized doors in it.
This is it. The entrance to the Forbidden Forest. All we gotta do is pick a door.
What difference does it make? Let's just go.
Ludo quickly steps between Sarah and the doors.
One door, good. One door, bad.
Well, that's great news. Don't suppose you know which is which.
Sarah skirts around Ludo and goes up to the door for a closer look at them.
One door, good. One door.
All right, you walking mountain, you made your point.
Another angle, Sarah ignores the bickering behind her and examines the doors. Each has a door knocker on it. Both knockers are carved into faces, except one has the ring going through its ears, and the other has it stuck in its mouth.
Guess once you choose a door, all you have to do is knock.
The knocker with the ring through its ears speaks.
Are you addressing me?
Sarah jumps back, stunned.
You can talk.
What? You'll have to speak up.
Sarah turns to the other knocker.
You too.
Sarah shakes her head in amazement. Another angle, the boys are still at it.
If
Uncle
you're so
Seth?
smart, why not show us another way into the forest?
Ludo, not no.
That figures, don't it? Why the missy wants an overgrown hill of hair for a friend is beyond me.
Ludo tries to make Hoggle feel better and pats him on the shoulder. Hoggle shakes his hand off with a growl. Another angle, Sarah is exciting.
I love it. Talking doors. Are you the right door to the forest?
It doesn't do to ask me. For some reason, I can't hear a thing.
Sarah turns to knocker number 1.
No use asking him either. All he does is mumble.
Knocker number 2 gets very excited. I get it. You can't talk with that ring in your mouth. She removes the ring and looks at the face triumphantly.
Now, tell me which one of you is the right door to the forest.
Oh, I am. No question about it.
Great. Well, how do we get you to open up?
One merely has to knock.
Well, of course. Why didn't I think of that?
She tries to get the ring back in its mouth.
Oh, no, you don't, young lady. I've had just about enough of that awful thing. Thank you very much.
But how are we supposed to get through this door if you won't let me knock on it?
Well, I really couldn't say now, could I?
Sarah throws up her hands in disgust.
Oh, do speak up, both of you. I can't hear a thing.
Another angle, Hoggle and Ludo are still at it.
You know, even if she does get the door open, you won't be able to fit through. Why not make it easy for us all and take a hike?
Ludo, stay.
Hoggle is disgusted.
You're quite the speechifier, aren't you?
Another angle, Sarah suddenly gives knocker number 2 an evil grin.
Are you sure there isn't anything I can do to change your mind?
Absolutely not. My lips are sealed.
That's what I thought.
The knocker presses its lips firmly together. Sarah deftly squeezes its nose shut. It sputters for air and finally has to open its mouth before it suffocates. Sarah shoves the ring in with gleeful cry of triumph. She knocks, and the door swings open.
Let's go!
She goes through the door, and Hoggle and Ludo race to follow. They both try to get through the door at the same time and get into such a tangle that the door closes before they can straighten themselves out.
Oh, now you've done it.
In a frenzy, Hoggle starts banging on both doors.
Missy, wait!
Exterior Forbidden Forest day. Sarah on the other side of the door, except on this side there is no door, just a long expanse of wall. The forest is very dark, and it, as its name suggests, very forbidding. Sarah can hear Hoggle calling, but it's very faint.
Hoggle?
Exterior Forest Gate day. Hoggle is beating on the doors with such a frenzy that the other door swings open.
I'm coming.
He rushes through the door and disappears. We can tell from his voice that he's falling down a deep hole.
Missy!
We hear a huge splash. Then that door shuts and Ludo is all alone.
Sarah, gone. Hoggle, gone.
He's sad and confused. A figure emerges from the hedge maze and begins to walk along the wall, away from Ludo. It is the wise one. Ludo brightens and chases after him.
Wait!
The wise one stops and the hat looks Ludo up and down.
This ought to be a good one.
Ludo, need door.
You have need of a door, do you? Yes, a very useful thing, the door, also known as a portal or threshold, or that which gives access, or gate, or gangway.
He continues walking, and Ludo walks with him, listening intently.
Also an entrance or entry, often accompanied by a propylaeum.
Oh, if only I had hands, I could cover my ears. That is, if I had ears.
Not to be confused with a window or fenestration.
Exterior forest day. Sarah has waited long enough.
Hoggle? Ludo? Where are you?
She reaches into her pocket and looks at the watch. The hour hand is on the 7.
Oh, Freddie. Well, you guys are going to have to catch up with me because I can't wait.
Then determined, she strides off. Interior whole day. Hoggle is in a pool at the bottom of a deep hole in the ground. There is a ledge just above him, and he splashes violently trying to reach it.
Somebody help me! I can't swim!
Exterior forest day. Sarah is in a very thick, creepy part of the woods. She's clearly lost. She gets herself tangled in a thorn bush and struggles with it to get herself free. Finally, she does, and then, frustrated, sits down on the ground.
Why does everything have to happen to me?
But there's no time to think about that, because she hears the sound of a driving drum rhythm, and a wild-looking, spindly leering little creature comes scampering through the trees and into the clearing. And then another, and another, and another. Sarah is terrified as they approach her, but then not so terrified because the creatures aren't doing anything except dancing. Wild and loose-limbed, frenzied dancing. Sarah laughs and can't help but be taken in by the wild spectacle. And then they begin to encircle her, still moving to the wild rhythm.
What are you?
We're wild things, baby, wild.
Wild and free.
Get down.
And then more wild things appear, and these produce instruments, and turn the drum rhythm into a frenzied upbeat number.
You call that wild? I'll show you wild.
And then he does an amazing thing, to say the least. He takes his head off and rolls it along the arms from hand to hand like a juggler, then tosses it high in the air and deftly catches it on his shoulders. Sarah gasps and tries to get away, but another wild thing pushes her back into the middle of the melee.
Cut me some slack and move on back.
And they do, and moving to the pounding rhythm, he takes his eyes out of his head and waves them at Sarah. Then he tosses them on the ground as if they were a pair of dice. They land at Sarah's feet, looking straight up.
Sneak eyes.
Sarah is fascinated and repelled. And the beat gets hotter and more frenzied. She can't help getting a little wild herself. She begins to really dance.
That's it, baby. Get wild and free, but you'll never be as wild as me.
And to prove it, he takes his head off and begins to dribble it like a basketball. Wild thing number 1 leans over to Sarah and whispers conspiratorially.
I wouldn't really call that really wild, would you?
Well, it's, sort of.
I call this wild.
And he takes off his head, puts it on the ground as if it were a golf ball, and then removes a leg and uses it as a golf club. The head goes flying right to Sarah. Sarah catches the head, then tries to get it back to its body, but the body dances into the middle of all the other wild things, and she can't find it. So there's Sarah running around like a chicken with 2 heads, when suddenly the ears start to flap and the head flies out of her hand. A wild thing grabs her hand and turns her around.
That was wild, baby. Now how about getting wild with me?
But Sarah has had enough.
I think I'll sit this one out.
Now with us, you don't.
Because we're wild.
And then they're all over her like a bunch of hyper puppies, and it's really too much.
Enough! I've got to find the castle.
Well, why didn't you say so, baby?
A wild idea.
And then his head flies off, and he has to quickly grab it and put it back. Meanwhile, the others start pushing and pulling on Sarah and propel her into the woods.
They got some wild goings on at the castle, baby, and we have 3 wild and crazy things.
Interior whole day. Hoggle is holding on to the ledge with his fingertips. He doesn't have the strength to hold on much longer, and he looks down at the water in mortal terror. He begins to slip just as a door opens in the sheer rock, and Jareth enters, accompanied by goblins.
Well, what have we here? If it isn't little Piggle.
Hoggle screams and slips into the water. He tries to struggle back to the ledge, but the goblins push him at him with poles, laughing maniacally.
Did the girl decide she didn't need you now that she has that beast?
She wouldn't do nothing like that.
Jareth leans over the water, laughing.
Don't you know she could never care for a repulsive thing like you?
Hoggle splashes and tries to stay afloat.
She does care. Me and Sarah is friends.
Only until something better comes along. And I've definitely got something better in mind.
Don't you hurt her.
Hoggle grabs onto the ledge and the gleeful goblins push him back down into the water.
What I do with her is my business, and it is inevitable.
He grabs Hoggle by the shirt front and lifts him out of the water.
You can be with me or against me.
What I gotta do?
I doubt if she can make it to the castle in time.
He leans down and speaks directly into Hoggle's face.
But just in case, I want you to deliver her to me.
Never. I'd rather die.
Jareth sneers scornfully.
Then so you shall.
He drops Hoggle back into the water. The goblins shriek with delight. Hoggle goes underwater and comes up sputtering.
Wait!
Jareth was about to leave. He turns back to Hoggle, a look of amusement on his face.
I gotta know what you'll do to her.
He splashes pathetically in a desperate attempt to stay above water.
I will do whatever amuses me.
He reaches into his cloak and brings out a perfect peach.
All you have to do is give her this.
He tosses Hoggle the peach. Hoggle catches it immediately. The water starts to recede.
You've made a very wise decision.
He leaves, followed by the goblins.
I didn't decide nothing yet.
Hoggle stares forlornly at the peach, and soon the water is gone, and he's sitting on cold, damp ground. Exterior forest day. The wild things are leading Sarah on a rocky path. She stumbled along, but they couldn't care less.
Are you sure this is the way to the castle?
Oh, did you say the castle?
I thought she said Hassel.
Rascal. I thought she said Rassel.
Rassel? Now that's a wild idea.
He leaps on Sarah, and she flings him off.
Oh, okay, guys. Fun's over.
She starts to leave, and they pull her back.
Over? Oh, it's just begun.
And then the musicians are back, and the dancing gets wilder than ever. The wild things totally surround Sarah, and though they aren't hurting her, they're definitely not letting her out. What they do is start throwing their heads at each other and switching them.
Now this is really
Wild.
Another angle, the door opens and a nearby boulder and Ludo appears. In the background, we can see and hear the wise one as he wanders off.
Very often preceded by a porch or portico, also veranda, and followed by a vestibule, otherwise known as an antechamber or foyer.
Why me?
The door closes. Ludo sees Sarah in the middle of his weirdness and is just a bit confused. Sarah sees him amidst the flying heads and cries out in relief.
Ludo!
Sarah, not want castle?
Are you kidding? Get me out of here!
Ludo approaches the wild things and grabs a head before it reaches its target and calmly tosses it into the trees.
You big fella, that's a little too wild.
But there's no time to talk because Ludo calmly catches the other heads and tosses them away. The bodies go scurrying after their heads, followed by the musicians. Sarah is free.
Oh, Ludo, I'm so glad you're here.
She gives him a kiss and he beams.
Where's Hoggle?
Hoggle in bad door.
We've got to find him. Do you think we can?
Ludo is very confident. He spent a lot of time with the wise one.
Ludo knows doors.
He ambles off with Sarah following.
Also, portal or entrance.
Interior whole day. Hoggle is more depressed than ever. The peach is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Ludo's head appears above.
Hoggle all wet.
Hoggle almost jumps out of his skin and then is totally outraged.
Oh, ain't that the clever observation, you feeble excuse for a thinking creature?
Sarah
Be
appears
ni-
from behind Ludo.
Be nice, Hoggle, or we won't get you out.
Hoggle's face lights up and all thoughts of anger are forgotten.
Missy!
Interior forest day. Sarah, Hoggle, and Ludo march through thick, overgrown forest. They do not know what they are being spied on by Jareth's goblins. Interior clearing day. The threesome emerge into a clearing and see that they've come to a wild fissure that goes off in either direction as far as the eye can see. It's spanned by a rickety bridge held by two thick wooden posts on either side of the gap. Sarah eyes the bridge warily.
It doesn't look too strong, but we don't have much choice.
Suddenly, they're interrupted by a high-pitched but powerful voice.
Halt! Halt or be slain forthwith!
At first, they don't see a thing and look around for a source of the voice. Then, imposing 18-inch high figure of Didymus, resplendent in rakish hat and swashbuckling sword, emerges from behind one of the posts and stands in front of the bridge. Ludo and Sarah are dumbstruck. Hoggle, however, is not at a loss for words.
Out of our way, you wretched little rodent.
Didymus looks directly at Hoggle.
You, sir, shall be the first to feel the point of my sword.
Hoggle snorts with derision, and Sarah tries a more sensible approach.
Please, we really have to cross this bridge. It's a matter of life and death.
Didymus shrugs elegantly.
Under any circumstances, I would hasten to oblige you, fair damsel, for your mission sounds a worthy one.
Oh, it is.
But I am sworn, without my permission, none may pass.
Sarah throws up her hands and Hoggle mumbles under his breath. It appears to be up to Ludo to break the deadlock. He lifts Didymus up into the air and moves him to one side. They then start to walk toward the bridge, and Didymus chases them, brandishing his sword.
You dishonor me, varlets, and guard!
To his chagrin, they ignore him and keep walking.
Rapscallions! Duel or die!
This gets their attention, and they turn to look at him, annoyed.
What is this weasel babbling about?
It is too much for Didymus. He flings himself at Hoggle with a mighty war cry. Hoggle tries to run for it, but Didymus is right behind him, administering more than a few pinpricks in embarrassing places. Hoggle dives behind a bush, and Didymus sniffs at his cowardice. He comes back and faces Ludo.
It is you I want, rogue of rogues! You who dealt me the gravest affront!
And with that, he jabs Ludo in the foot. Ludo is stunned and howling and begins to hop on his good foot. Didymus, his head thrown back for a triumphant yell, goes after Ludo with his sword flashing, and there is nothing for Ludo to do but pick up a branch and defend himself. It's the most mismatched duel in the history of chivalrous absurdity, Didymus moving at an incredible speed, parrying the mighty swipes of Ludo's branch with the greatest skill, and no small amount of difficulty. And Ludo fending off the incessant pinpricks of the little sword, leaping about with surprising agility, and at a rate that exhausts him totally. Finally, the two of them, breathing heavily, lower their weapons, and to everyone's surprise, Didymus throws down his sword.
I no longer wish to slay you, for you are a truly noble knight.
Then Didymus strides up to him and, cranking his neck, attempts to look Ludo in the eyes.
Destroy me, if you will.
Ludo quickly drops his branch in response. The whole thing has upset his gentle nature terribly. Didymus then holds out a tiny paw.
Never have I met my match in battle, yet you, noble knight, have fought me to a standstill.
Ludo kneels and tentatively takes Didymus's paw into his huge hand.
Let us be brothers forthwith, and henceforth, and fight for the right as one.
Sarah cheers, and Hoggle, unimpressed, rubs his sore rear. Ludo smiles from ear to ear.
Ludo, get Brother.
Then he and Didymus exchange their ritual kisses on each cheek, which in their case is not easily accomplished. Sarah then turns practical.
Well, now that's settled, let's get going.
She heads for the bridge, but Didymus blocks her way.
You forgot my sacred vow, my lady. I cannot let you pass.
But you
Sarah
said Ludo
is
was your
incensed.
brother. How can you refuse him?
I have taken an oath. I must defend it to the death.
Hoggle, enraged, turns on Ludo.
Some brother he turned out to be.
Brother, good.
Well, if he's so good, why won't he let us get on with our business?
Ludo scratches his head. He has no idea. Sarah sits down beside the crestfallen Didymus.
Okay, let's handle this thing logically. What exactly have you sworn?
Didymus brandishes his sword.
I have sworn with my lifeblood. No one shall pass this way without my permission.
Then may we have your permission?
Didymus is stunned. Hoggle and Ludo barely breathe. Slowly, Didymus looks all around, and then, with a courage greater than any he has ever had to call on before, he says it.
Yes.
And the sky doesn't fall, and the earth doesn't heave, and everything is exactly as it should be.
Thank you.
Didymus breathes a sigh of relief and steps aside to let them pass. Ludo is the first one to go over, and that is unfortunate, because the rickety bridge collapses under his weight. Sarah and Hoggle jump back on the ground near Didymus just in time, and poor Ludo swings over the deep fissure, hanging on to one of the ropes that has held the bridge. With a mighty effort, he hoists himself up on the opposite side and looks forlornly at the others.
Oh no!
Sarah crumples to the ground and stares miserably at the broken bridge.
Now you've done. See what you've done, you mush-brained mammoth.
I, Sir Didymus, take responsibility for the actions of my brother, my lady. Lash out at me, if you must.
I'm not mad at Ludo, Sir Didymus. I'm just upset because time is running out and I have to rescue my baby brother.
Didymus is struck to the very roots of his chivalry.
You mean to rescue a child?
The Goblin King took him and I've only got
She takes out the watch. The hour hand is on the 5.
5 hours to get him back.
Didymus yells across to Ludo.
Is this your quest tool, my brother?
Save. Baby.
Didymus is overwhelmed.
Then I shall join you, lady, and I am at your service, upon my sword.
He bows low before Sarah, and she smiles.
I accept your fealties, Sir Didymus.
Hoggle frowns with displeasure at this latest development.
This is all well and good, Missy, but we still got one little problem.
They all look across the fissure at Ludo.
Ludo. Friends.
Yes, we're friends. Very nice. What's that got to do with getting us over there without a bridge?
Rocks. Friends.
We're wasting our time, Missy. Let's you and me go find another.
He's interrupted by Ludo bellowing, which is followed by a sympathetic rumbling. Suddenly, rocks pile up from both directions until there's a pile in the fissure high enough for them to walk across.
Rocks. Friends.
They sure are, Ludo.
She skips happily across, followed by a sullen Hoggle. Didymus whistles and is quickly joined by a tail-wagging sheepdog. Sarah gasps. He is the spitting image of her own Merlin.
It's
Ambrosius, my noble steed.
Sarah laughs and shrugs. Nothing surprises her in the labyrinth. Exterior forest night. The edge of the forest. From here you can see the castle in the distance just across the dry, cracked plain. The sky is full of stars. Sarah, Hoggle, and Ludo and Didymus are sitting around a fire.
What will you do after we save the child, my lady?
take him home, of course. That is, if I can figure out how.
What is your kingdom like? Do you have many knights to defend your honor?
Not even one.
It cannot be. What better place is this that does not dishonor to my lady?
It's a place where nobody really sees me.
Ludo, see, Sarah.
I I know you do, Ludo. And thanks to you, Sir Didymus, I finally have a knight.
He bows graciously. Hoggle, who's been watching this scene, feels rejected and miserable. He gets up and wanders away from the fire. After a moment, Sarah follows him.
Don't you feel like resting?
I ain't tired.
Me neither. What I am is hungry.
Hoggle winces, but Sarah doesn't notice. Sarah looks back at Ludo and Didymus. Ludo lies on his back, snoring loudly. Didymus dozes against Ambrosius's side.
They're both wonderful, aren't they?
They're all right.
Well, they're more than that. They're loyal and strong, and with their help, I'm going to beat Jareth.
Hoggle shakes his head sadly. Sarah speaks in afterthought.
And yours, too, of course.
Oh, I ain't no fighter.
She shrugs that off and wanders away to look out at the castle. Hoggle goes through agony for a moment and then makes a decision.
Missy, if you're hungry...
He holds out the peach that Jareth gave him, the world's most delicious-looking peach.
Oh, great!
She happily takes the peach and bites. It's everything Hoggle has to not put his hands over his ears. She takes another bite and then stumbles.
Everything's dancing.
She looks up at the sky, exhilarated.
Even the stars are dancing.
Hoggle turns and walks back to the fire. Sarah stumbles about as she gazes happily at the sky. Interior castle night. Freddy is leading the goblins on a merry chase. He crawls around the room, pulling things off shelves. A goblin is on his hands and knees in front of Jareth, polishing his boots. Jareth kicks the goblin and sends him flying across the room. This makes Freddy laugh as he pulls a book off the shelf and throws it. It hits a goblin on the head. Jareth scoops up Freddy and puts him on his cradle. He sits down next to him.
Little goblin to be, I have something to amuse you.
He waves his hands in front of Freddy, and suddenly beautiful crystalline balls appear in them. He runs them over his fingers like so many coins, their molten light so dazzling that Freddy kicks up his legs with excitement. And we can see that the end of his pajamas are two wizened goblin feet. Jareth laughs and flings the balls into the air, and they turn into bubbles, beautiful, mesmerizing bubbles.
Soon, little one. Very, very soon.
And they both watch the bubbles as they fly out the window and over the labyrinth, coldly beautiful against the darkening sky. Exterior forest night. Sarah's hand opens slowly and the half-eaten peach falls to the ground. She stares out into the sky, mesmerized. The bubbles are approaching, dazzling, dancing bubbles. And then she hears music, haunting, spellcasting music. The bubbles come closer, and we can see that each one contains a twirling dancer, a dancer just like the one in Sarah's music box. And she gets up and follows them. Another angle, Hoggle watching from the woods.
Oh, dang you, Jareth. And dang me too.
Another angle, a bubble with Sarah inside it floating through the sky. She appears enchanted and she begins to twirl just like the other dancers. Exterior ballroom night. A giant bubble with a magnificent ballroom inside. Tiny bubbles rush to join it. One of them is Sarah. Interior ballroom night. The music changes and now Sarah is inside the ballroom. It's a magnificent spectacle with all the beauty and decadence of an 18th century Venetian ball. Magnificently dressed dancers swirl to the music in an incredibly opulent setting. But when you look closer, you sense decay just beneath the surface. Things are threadbare, faded. The guests wear masks that are elegant parodies of goblin faces, giving them all slightly sinister look. And then there is something very provocative about all of them. The women have bare shoulders and daring décolletage, and many of the men have their shirts open to the waist. Some of them lounge against the wall indolently, and there is a feeling that the party has been going on all night. In this setting, Sarah is the picture of innocence. Two women snickering behind their fans as Sarah approaches, and she is suddenly terribly self-conscious. How plain she feels amidst all of this. She looks into one of the many mirrors that line the ballroom and sighs at her image. Then suddenly she sees something in the mirror that makes her gasp. Another angle, the mirror, and in it, the reflection of a resplendent Jareth dancing around with a particularly exotic-looking woman. Sarah whirls around, trying to get another glimpse of Jareth. She is so intent on trying to see him that she doesn't notice she is being stared at brazenly by a young man leaning against the wall. He moves to her and whispers something into her ear. She hurries away, shocked, and the young man throws back his head and laughs, and Jareth sees the whole thing. Another angle, Sarah is approached by a middle-aged man who has a box hanging at his waist height from a ribbon around his neck. It looks like Sarah's music box. She looks down at it with interest, and he throws open the cover. But there's no dancer inside. Instead, there's a stick carved like a snake. It shoots out at Sarah, and she cries out and backs away. All the people around her laugh, and she moves hurriedly on. Jareth, who is dancing with even more beautiful women than before, watches Sarah. Another angle. Sarah is looking for Jareth. She spots him and sees him whisper something to his partner, who smiles knowingly from beneath her mask and licks her lips. Sarah blushes and turns away and finds herself looking into another mirror. But in the reflection, Jareth isn't with a partner. He's standing alone. The dancer's a whirling blur around him, and he's looking straight at her. Sarah whirling around to face the crowd, and she sees Jareth with yet a third beauty. And then she realizes that it's herself. In a trance-like state, she moves through the crowd to get a better look. Another angle, Sarah's point of view. She's whirling in Jareth's arms, and she is the most beautiful woman at the ball. Jareth smiles down at her, and the attraction between them is palpable.
You look like a queen.
She looks up at him, thrilled by his words.
I feel like I don't know what I feel.
Don't you?
And he whirls her around dizzyingly, so dizzyingly that she swoons in his arms. He catches her before she can fall very far, tightening his grip around her waist.
Are we in a bubble?
Yes, we are. A dream bubble where your dreams can come true.
Another angle. Our Sarah is being jostled by the crowd. She stumbles and almost falls on top of a couple on a bench. The woman is sprawled against the lap of the man who wears a mask with a very phallic nose. Sarah backs away from them, frightened. Another angle, Jareth and Sarah dancing. She's smiling up at him. He's never looked more handsome. There's something more open about him, as if he too is caught up in the moment. He nuzzles her hair with his lips and whispers in her ear.
My queen.
Then he begins a song that tells Sarah he will give her everything she wants, even things she doesn't know she wants. A song that says, forget it all the restrictions, all the powerlessness, forget and stay in the dream. Another angle, our Sarah watches mesmerized. But every time she tries to get closer to Jareth and Sarah, she is jostled by a lascivious admirer, pushed out of the way by women laughingly being chased by men. She stumbles against a wall and a door opens. Inside, pillow feathers are flying, and she can't make out what several people are doing. A woman comes up to the doorway, winks at Sarah, and closes the door. Another angle, Jareth finishes the song, and Sarah looks up at him, smiling. He moves his face closer to hers, and she closes her eyes. His face comes closer and closer. Another angle, our Sarah shrinks back from what she's seeing. She turns and runs, pushing herself through the languid crowd, right into the bubble itself. Exterior ballroom night. Sarah comes crashing through the bubble, and the whole ballroom crumbles. In seconds, it resembles nothing much as a junkyard. Exterior junk city night. Sarah runs through the streets of a part market, part junkyard. There are piles of rubble and junk everywhere, and between them are tents from which people hawk objects of all kinds. Some of them approach Sarah, and she pushes them away, sobbing. Another angle, Sarah's point of view, a red tent, and standing in front of it is an old woman, stooped over from the objects piled high on her back. She beckons to Sarah and pulls the tent flap aside.
Here it is, dearie. All the things you want. All the things you need.
Another angle, the flap opens wider, and inside the tent we can see Sarah's room. Another angle, Sarah gasps at the sight and runs headlong into the tent. She trips over the threshold and lands face down on her bed. Interior, Sarah's room, night. Sarah sits up on the bed and looks around the room. She shakes her head and laughs.
What a dream.
She gets up and stretches, then walks over to the mirror. She smiles at her reflection.
Yep, you've got quite an imagination, kid. Just what a great actress needs.
She walks over to the bed and picks up the Lancelot the bear.
How about a midnight snack, Sir Lancelot?
She goes over to the door and opens it. Exterior Junk City night. Sarah's point of view, the market junkyard teeming with activity. The junk woman peers in.
Haven't you got everything you need, dearie?
Interior Sarah's room night. Sarah screams and slams the door. She buries her face in the bear.
It is just a dream.
She takes a deep breath and goes to the door again. She opens it very slowly. Exterior Junk City night. Sarah's point of view, the same teeming activity. The junk woman peers in again.
Best to stay in there where it's safe, dearie. Oh, don't know what might happen to you out here.
Interior Sarah's room night. Sarah slams the door again and rushes over to the window. A group of revelers peer in at her and laugh. She quickly pulls the curtains closed and walks back to the center of the room. She stands clutching the bear, then looks up at her reflection in the mirror. Another angle, Sarah's reflection. Herself as a very old woman clutching a teddy bear.
Best to stay in here where it's safe. Don't know what might happen to you out there.
Sarah steps back from the mirror and suddenly the floor becomes a sea of mud and all the objects in the room come falling down on her. As she tries to rise out of the muck, more objects land on and around her and pull her down.
Help! Help! Somebody help me!
Exterior Junk City night. Ludo and Didymus desperately searching for Sarah, Didymus riding his dog. Interior tavern tent night. Hoggle sits at a bar drowning his sorrows. A junk man bartender works behind the bar. Hoggle slams his cup down.
Another.
The bartender holds out his hand greedily. Hoggle puts a treasure off his belt and slams it onto the bar. The bartender pours. Exterior Junk City night. Didymus and Ludo approach the red tent. They spy the junk woman.
Did you see a noble maiden pass this way?
A noble maiden, eh? Well, what would she be doing in a place like this?
She's on a rescue mission.
The junk woman finds this hilarious.
A rescue mission? Oh, you're in the wrong place for sure. Oh, the only things we cares about rescuing around here is our worldly goods.
She takes an oil lamp off her back and shines it on her sleeve for emphasis. Interior Sarah's room night. Sarah is drowning in a sea of junk. She hears Didymus and cries out hopefully.
Didymus! In here! Help me!
The door opens and the junk woman peers inside.
Oh, don't worry, dearie. I sent him away.
Sarah groans.
I knew you wouldn't want to be leaving your nice things for no rescue mission.
Oh my God! Freddie!
Freddie? Is that one of them dolls over there? Or that nice teddy?
Sarah struggles for the door in the sea of junk.
No, he's my brother, and I've got to save him!
She continues pushing through the junk.
No, you don't, dearie. You can stay right here with all your pretty things.
Sarah knows what her choice has to be.
I know I can, but I don't want to.
She lifts herself out of the junk with a mighty heave and stands in the doorway. She looks down at the junk woman triumphantly.
Now get out of my way!
Exterior Junk City night. Sarah runs out of the tent, a look of triumph on her face. The junk woman pulls something off her own pile and holds it out to Sarah.
Wait, dearie, look at this.
She holds out Sarah's music box, opens it, and the little dancer twirls inside.
Keep it.
And she's off. As Sarah goes, the camera lingers on Junk Woman. And we begin to move around to her other side. And even though we had just seen her from all sides, we now see something very, very different. Where the other side of the woman should be, we see a cross section of her with Jareth inside. His head is beneath the pile of junk and his hand is inside her head, making it laugh. He's the puppeteer operating the junk lady, as indeed she's been operated. Jareth is mad.
Damn.
Exterior castle gate night. Ludo and Didymus sit forlornly at the gate. Sarah appears out of the night.
My lady!
Ludo leaps to his feet.
Sarah, safe.
Sarah rushes into his arms.
Is Hoggle not with you?
Sarah pulls away from Ludo.
Hoggle made his choice. He's not part of the mission anymore.
The coward!
Hoggle, good.
Sarah shrugs and smiles at him.
Maybe, but there's no time to discuss it. We've got a baby to rescue, remember?
She leads them through the gate. Exterior Goblin Town night. Streets full of hovels encircle the castle. This is where the goblins live. As Sarah, Ludo, and Hoggle walk through the dark, eerie streets, they are met by the slamming of shutters and the extinguishing of lights.
Methinks they are expecting us, my lady.
A child goblin peers at them from an open doorway. A female goblin sees him and drags him inside and slams the door.
He thinks you're right.
Interior tavern night. Hoggle is still at it. He pulls his belt off his body, and we see that the only treasure left is Sarah's plastic circlet. He slowly pulls it off and stares at it. The bartender approaches, his eyes lighting up at the sight of this treasure.
Another?
Hoggle hesitates, then hands the circlet over. The bartender bites it, and his face lights up with glee.
Plastic.
He goes to get the drink, and Hoggle puts his face down on the bar and sobs. Another angle, at the other end of the bar sits the wise one. The hat looks over at Hoggle and shakes his head knowingly.
Drinking to forget, eh, buddy?
Hoggle looks up.
Forget. Ah, yes, to suffer a mental lapse, to obliterate from one's consciousness, to suffer amnesia, a blank or fuge, to drink the waters of Letha.
Oh, what's Letha?
The waters of forgetfulness. They remove from our minds what is too painful to remember.
Hoggle looks thoughtfully at the drink in his hand.
But with the memory goes our wisdom, our knowledge, that which brings us understanding, also enlightenment.
But there's no one to continue benefiting from the wise one's pearls. Hoggle is gone.
You can cool it down there. He's gone.
A grasp of things, a depth or profundity of thought.
The hat sighs and looks over at the bartender, who is still admiring his plastic treasure.
Another one over here, and make it a double.
Exterior Goblin Town night. Sarah, Ludo, and Didymus emerge into the vast courtyard outside the castle. It is eerily quiet. Too quiet.
We're going to make it!
Didymus sniffs the air.
I am less than sure.
They're interrupted by a high-pitched shriek as a goblin jumps on Ludo's back. Then the courtyard is filled with goblins, what seems like the whole army coming right at them. Didymus fends off the vanguard party with his sword, and Ludo punches out the ones that get by him. Didymus unswords a goblin, and his weapon goes flying. Sarah picks it up and does some parrying of her own. But there are too many of them. The threesome turn and run. Interior castle night. Jareth stands by the window watching the battle. The white bird sits on his shoulder. Jareth looks over at Freddy, who stands holding onto the side of the cradle. Jareth smiles and turns back to the melee below. The bird flies out the window. Exterior Goblin Town night. Sarah, Ludo, and Didymus race down the streets. The goblins are in hot pursuit. Exterior street night. They come careening around a corner, and it seems they have escaped their pursuers. The sound of the goblins seems to be getting further away.
I think we lost him.
They turn back and see that, unfortunately, they have come full circle and are right back in the courtyard. Ludo climbs partway up a wall and looks over the streets.
What do you see, my brother?
Ludo gulps. What he sees is the goblin army coming down every street right towards them.
Ludo, see trouble.
And then the trouble arrives, and Sarah and Didymus are heavily into swordplay. Ludo tries clumsily to get down and is tormented by goblins who prick at him with their spears. Sarah looks up to see his predicament. She gets an idea.
Call the rocks, Ludo! Call the rocks!
Ludo makes a heroic effort and gets to the top of the wall. He then throws his head back and bellows. Exterior Goblin Town night. An enormous rumbling is heard, and soon the streets are filled with boulders, all careening toward Ludo. They knock goblins out of their path like so many bowling pins. Exterior courtyard night. Sarah and Didymus fight bravely. Ludo keeps bellowing and throwing off the occasional goblin that is stupid enough to jump on him. Soon the rocks reach the courtyard and form a barrier between the threesome and their attackers. Ludo reaches down and lifts Sarah and Didymus onto the wall. They jump and disappear into the castle enclave. Interior castle night. A door opens in a dark part of the castle. Ludo, Sarah, and Didymus enter. They look around and quickly tiptoe down a dark corridor. They turn a corner to see some goblins marching their way. They duck out of sight. Exterior castle night. The main entrance to the castle, 2 goblin guards stand outside the large wooden doors. The results of the threesome's escape can be heard in the distance. A figure staggers out of the dark, singing drunkenly. It's Hoggle.
It's so cold in the night with no gold to keep me warm.
He trips over his feet as he approaches the guard.
Who goes there? Oh, it's so cold, it's so cold.
Don't worry about him. He's on Jareth's payroll now.
Hoggle falls to the ground, then picks himself up.
That's right. Jareth owes me something, and I'm here to collect.
They laugh at him, then step aside and let him enter. Interior castle night. A group of goblins stand in a circle in a corridor. They torment a tiny, fuzzy, yapping creature with their nipper sticks. The creature gets away from them and goes scurrying down the corridor. The goblins laugh. It turns a corner and starts yapping for all it's worth. Another angle, Sarah, Ludo, and Didymus pressed against the wall, trying not to be noticed. Unfortunately, the little creature has no sympathy for their plight. It stands at their feet, making a ruckus.
Shut up, you little monster!
Ludo bends down to pet it in hopes of quieting it.
Nice thing.
But the creature doesn't want a pet. It sinks its teeth into Ludo's hand. Ludo howls.
Oh!
I fear this means trouble.
The goblins yell and start running down the corridor.
Run for it!
They're off, the creatures and the goblins at their heels. Interior corridor night. The 3 are running for all they're worth. Sarah pulls the watch out of her pocket. It is on the 12.
Only half hour left! We've got to find Freddy!
Another angle, yet another group of goblins running right toward them. They stop in their tracks and start running in the opposite direction. Interior inner courtyard night. The 3 come careening into the long, narrow inner courtyard. Balconies look down on it from the floor above. Opposite them is a large, ornate door. They have a lead on the goblins chasing them, but not for long. Another angle, on one of the balconies, a particularly repulsive little goblin laughs sadistically. The 3 look up and see the goblin with his hands on a huge lever. He pushes it down gleefully, and the floor opens up in front of the threesome. It appears to be a bottomless pit too wide to leap across. Horrified, they look behind them and see the goblins gaining on them. And they're throwing spears. Suddenly, there's a triumphant yell from the balcony opposite the repulsive goblin, and then a figure leaps off it and is swinging on a rope.
Hoggle!
It certainly is. He wrestles with the hideous goblin and in the struggle falls screaming into the pit. Hoggle then grabs the lever, and it is not a second too soon. The pursuing goblins are entering the courtyard. Another angle, the floor closes and the 3 run to the door. An enraged pursuer aims a spear at Hoggle. He's hit. Sarah screams as Ludo struggles with the door. It won't budge, and he begins to smash his body against it. Another angle, a seemingly half-dead Hoggle staggers to his feet and throws his body on the lever. He appears to faint from the strain, but the weight of his body pushes the lever and the floor opens again. Another angle, the enraged goblins are stopped in their tracks by the yawning pit. They hurl spears at the threesome, but it is to no avail. Ludo smashes down the door and they run in. Interior, Jareth's quarters, night. Sarah, Didymus, and Ludo, carrying Hoggle, enter the room where we've seen Jareth and Freddy. They lock the door behind them. No one is there, and Freddy's cradle is rocking as if someone has removed him only moments before. Ludo places Hoggle down, and Sarah looks feverishly around the room. She spots a door.
That's the only way he could have gone.
She runs to the door, and Ludo and Didymus follow.
No, I have to face him alone.
But my lady.
He's interrupted by the sound of the goblins in pursuit. They start trying to smash down the door. Ludo runs to it and presses his body against it. Hoggle moans and Didymus and Sarah run to his side.
I don't expect you to forgive me, Missy, but...
He puts her finger to his lips.
What? Saving our lives?
But I betrayed y'all. And I gave you that dang peach.
Shh. You did the only thing you could do.
She looks down at his empty belt.
And I see you lost all your treasures in the process.
Well, I don't care if I see another treasure again.
Here, just in case you change your mind.
She slips off her mother's ring and presses it into Hoggle's hand. He's overwhelmed, and Sarah smiles at his pleasure.
And Jareth said you could never love me.
Jareth doesn't know anything.
She leaps to her feet, and Hoggle moans.
Take care of him, Didymus.
I'll guard the valiant Hoggle with my life.
The goblins give the door a particularly loud smash, and Ludo presses against the door even harder.
Ludo, too.
She runs to the other door and stops to look back at them.
No maiden could have wished for nobler knights.
And she is gone. Escher Rotunda Night. Sarah enters an overwhelming room with many staircases, balconies, and doorways at different heights and at all kinds of strange angles that obviously have no relation to what we know as gravity. Her knees buckling from vertigo. Then she gasps. Another angle, Jareth is sitting on the wall with all the ease of a fly.
I've been expecting you.
Sarah stumbles and falls into the room, ending up on the ceiling. She tries to adjust to being upside down.
Where's Freddie?
She has to look down and sideways to see Jareth, and it's clearly grueling.
He's right there.
And he points to one of the stairways that juts out at a right angle from the wall. Freddie is climbing up the stairs happily, but from Sarah's point of view, it looks like he'll fall when he gets to the top.
Freddie! No!
Freddie gets to the top but doesn't fall. Instead, he ends up crawling up the wall. Sarah sighs with relief and closes her eyes. This sends her reeling, and she ends up in one of the archways. She tries to orient herself, but there is no up, no down, no sideways, and the baby is about to crawl off a balcony. Sarah screams and Jareth laughs. He begins a song that tells Sarah she never really understood what was going on. So nothing is what it appears to be, not even things like up and down. Another angle, Freddie in the most precarious looking situation yet at the top of a staircase. He hesitates to crawl down, and to lure him, Jareth creates a ball out of thin air and throws it to the baby. Of course, it bounces up, and all the while his song is taunting Sarah. She turns away from him and looks into the large mirror framed in the archway. She sees endless Sarahs. And while she's looking, the first reflection runs to the first, and the reflection behind that to the right, and so on all the way down the line. And Sarah's still standing there. She falls backwards and ends up standing on the floor watching Freddie chase his ball across the ceiling. Jareth dances on the wall now as he is about to finish his song. And there's Freddie on one of the balconies facing out of the rotunda. If he falls off that, he'll really fall. Sarah runs up the opposite wall and finds that there is a sheer space between her and the baby. The only way to reach him is to jump. She looks at Jareth, who grins at her, then to Freddie, who is teetering on the edge. As Jareth comes to the end of the song, there is nothing to do but jump. She looks at Jareth and can't repress a grin of her own.
Like the man said, nothing is what it appears to be.
She jumps. Interior, Jareth's chambers night. Sarah falls right onto a magnificent, huge bed. Opposite her, Jareth sits in a chair. Freddie, wrapped in a blanket, is gurgling on his lap. Sarah reaches into her pocket and pulls out a watch. It's a few minutes before 13. Jareth stands up.
There's still time.
He gestures to a clock on the wall that shows the same time as her watch. He places Freddie into a cradle and comes over to the bed. He looks down at her.
Besides, I'm no longer interested in having a little goblin prince. I've decided I'd much rather have a queen.
He looks into her eyes for a moment. Sarah doesn't look away. Instead, she slowly eases herself off the bed and stands facing him.
A queen? Have you chosen anyone I know?
She glides by him and walks to the window. Jareth chuckles appreciatively.
You've come a long way, little girl.
Sarah looks out at the labyrinth.
I certainly have.
She turns to face him.
Yes, I can see it in your eyes. No one else has ever made it this far in the labyrinth. No one else has ever been worthy.
He takes her hand and brings it to his lips. She smiles down at him.
What's your offer?
Jareth stands quickly and looks at her. She certainly has come a long way.
Why, everything. You'll rule by my side.
Everything. The chance to spend my life surrounded by repulsive goblins? The chance to torment innocent creatures?
The chance to never have a care in the world. To never have to do anything that you don't want to.
Sarah looks at him.
Anything else?
Why, me, of course.
Sarah surreptitiously eyes the clock. There is about a minute left. She glides away from the window and tries to position herself closer to Freddie.
And what if I'm not interested?
Jareth reacts with surprise for a moment, then shakes his head.
Impossible. I know you. I know what you want.
Well, I've got news for you, Jareth.
She makes a beeline for the cradle.
I don't want you.
She's almost at the cradle, but Jareth grabs her arm and stops her.
Why, you miserable creep!
Jareth has hold of her arms, but she breaks away and hauls off and punches him in the jaw. Jareth steps back, stunned. Sarah scoops up the screaming Freddie.
How could you do this to an innocent baby?
Jareth starts rubbing his jaw, sniveling, stunned.
You hit me.
Sarah, Freddie in her arms, goes right up to him.
And I'd like to do more. You...
She's furious and she wants to hit him again badly. Since she has the baby in her arms, she makes do with kicking him hard in the shin. Jareth howls and grabs his leg.
I wouldn't want you if you were the last goblin on Earth.
The white bird flies through the window and lands on Sarah's shoulder. Jareth puts his hands to his ears.
Don't say that.
But it is too late. He starts shrinking.
Look at me. How could you do this to me?
Before Sarah's eyes, Jareth turns into an undersized, ineffective, sniveling little goblin. The features are those of a goblin, but still recognizably Jareth. Interior Castle Night. Jareth's quarters where Didymus tends to hoggle and Lugo still blocks the door.
Why does everything have to happen to me?
They look at each other and suddenly Ludo realizes that the goblins are no longer trying to break down the door. The three start to laugh.
She did it!
Huzzah!
They cheer. Interior Jareth's chambers night. Jareth, the bratty little goblin, is throwing a tantrum.
Nobody ever cares what I want.
The walls and floors shake so from his pounding fists and feet that a crack opens up right in front of Sarah's feet. She looks at the clock and the minute hand moves to the 13. She looks at Freddie. There's nothing to do but jump into the void, and the clock begins to strike.
Freddie, time to go bye-bye.
She jumps. Whee! Exterior sky night. Sarah and Freddie spinning through the dark, starry sky. The striking of the clock continues. Another angle, close on Sarah and Freddie. Sarah pulls him closer, lovingly. They go on spinning. Interior nursery night. Sarah is lying face down on the floor. She comes to slowly and tries to sit up. Groaning, she rubs her head where it bumped on the corner of the open drawer. She tries to focus, blinking her eyes. Another angle, Sarah's point of view. Her eyes slowly focus on Freddie's crib. When she can see, she gasps. Freddie's not there. The side of the crib is down and the baby is nowhere to be seen.
Freddie!
She leaps to her feet woozily, still rubbing her head as she staggers out into the hallway. Interior railway night. Sarah looks down the hallway and suddenly her face breaks out into a delighted grin. Another angle. Sarah's point of view, little Freddie is crawling slowly but determinedly into Sarah's room. When he gets onto her bed, he uses all his strength to pull himself up to his feet by holding on to the bedspread. He then holds his hands out, trying to reach something. Another angle, Sarah makes her way toward the room, delight and wonder on her face. Interior Sarah's room night. Sarah stands in the doorway, looking down at Freddie.
That's quite a journey you took, Freddie.
Freddie looks up at her and makes a sound. He continues straining, and we see that he's reaching for his Lancelot, Sarah's bear. Sarah smiles and lifts Freddie up. She sits on his bed, Freddie on her lap, and hands him the bear.
Here, it's yours.
Freddie takes it happily.
You earned it.
She kisses his head and rocks him gently. Then she gazes out the window at the stars. Exterior house night. The light shines from Sarah's window. The white bird flutters down from the starry sky. It perches in the tree beside the path. The end.
Yay!
Very nice. Great
Yes.
job, everyone.
Now, we are not done yet. I've waited 2.5 hours for this moment.
Take it over.
Oh no.
You remind me of the babe.
Babe,
The babe with the power.
what power?
The power of voodoo.
Hoodoo?
You do.
What?
Remind me of the babe. I saw my baby crying hard as babe could cry. What could I do? My baby's love had gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew what kind of magic spell to use.
Wine and snails and puppy dog tails.
Did we have something to eat or drink that was laced with something else before the performance?
And baby said, dance magic, dance magic, dance. Dance magic, put that baby spell on me. Do. Jump magic, jump magic, jump. Jump magic, put that baby junk on me. Slap that baby, make him free. Okay, I'm done.
Well, that was very lovely.
That's what it was missing. So glad.
all the music?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, Justin, I'm coming to steal that Star Trek poster on your wall, so you better hide it.
Oh, so nice.
So good.
Yeah. So we're just going to wrap it up with a quick little introduction. Tell us about how to find you, what you're doing, what you're working on. And after that, anyone who has to leave can leave. And anyone who would like to stay and can stay, please do, and we can continue our discussion.
Yep, because this is for instructional purposes as well. That's the words, educational purposes. So afterwards, we'll talk more about what we learned from the script or what others have already researched and know about the making of this movie.
I can't wait to hear it because I really want to know. So we'll start with Heather.
Hello. My name is Heather Lee Cameron, and I'm an actor, a voice actor, as you heard. I am a writer and I'm also a creator. I'm not only looking for work, I'm also looking for representation so I can get more opportunities to work. I really am excited to have done this. It really allowed me to grow as a voice actor, as you can tell. Anyway, you can find me on my YouTube channel, The Storm and Latter-day Saints, or on my Facebook page, Heather Lee Freelancer. You can also find me on the actor sites, and I just finished a 2-part play through the Monroe County Civic Theater, and those should be available for viewing soon. And I've also been in acting and writing since I was a teenager, and I'm more than happy to share those links with everybody if they ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. And next is Morgan.
Hi, guys. My name is Morgan Tolle. You can find me on Instagram at Morgan Elizabeth Tolle. I am a SAG-AFTRA actress, voice actor. Yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, Morgan. And next we have our Sarah, Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Lillis. I'm a voice actress. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at the handle Ravy13, like Ravy like Raven, but Ravy with an IE 13. Or you can go to erinlillis.com, and I'm working on revamping my site, so it'll point to somewhere at some point. But until then, you can usually find me in a number of audio dramas like the No Sleep podcast or Deconstructive Criticism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Fun. Thank you.
Awesome. If you send those links to those to us, we'll put those in the description eventually. Okay.
And if
Oh.
you go there and you see that it's not there, please put it in the comments.
Yeah.
And then it'll be done. Not done, but yes. Anyways,
They'll be there.
It'll be at least someone can find them. Jacob, you are next.
Oh, Jacob Patrick. Also, like Aaron, you have a website with my name, jacobpatrick.com. See some of the stuff I've done. Otherwise, I'll usually be here every Tuesday.
Thank you. And next is Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky Dykes. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Yoga Grandma 7, and you can find me on Facebook as Vicky Dykes. And I'm an actress, and I'm hoping this helps get me into voiceover. And I'm in the midst of putting together a yoga show. We haven't started filming yet, but hey, it was only 2 weeks ago that we decided this was happening. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Thank you, Vicky. And next is Justin, the man of many voices.
Hi, I'm Justin Dobby, and I'm just a weird guy who's literally into puppets.
So cool.
I can be found on most major search engines. Just type in Justin Dobby, D-A-U-B-E, and pretty much that entire first page will be me. Any of those links will do. It's all good. What am I doing? Oh yes. This guy needs work. I work for scale.
Thank you, Justin and friend. Antoinette, you are next.
Hello. I don't know. I sort of feel like Justin should have been the last. He's definitely got much more characters than I do. Let's see. We have Merlin Public Media airing Table Read Tuesdays in addition to your usual social media places. Merlin, yes, you can find them Merlin Public Media on Facebook, and that will give you a link to the station. Let's see, doing a couple interviews on there, doing a little series we're filming again this weekend, and that's probably a few months out. What else? I don't know. I'm getting into voice acting, but more like narrating and not like funny voices like Justin does so well, because he can do everything. So I just was totally entertained by you tonight. So thanks for being here. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved hearing everyone's voices. Just so much fun. We come here every week, and some of the regulars, you hear their acting voices, but stuff like this, you get to hear a little bit extra. So that's pretty cool. So thank you. If there's anyone who does want to leave or needs to leave early, now would be.
Did we forget Jacob?
No, Jacob went.
No, but we forgot you.
Vicky, no.
Or didn't.
Heather was first. Oh, no, Vicky. I think everybody went.
Angel? You did?
Oh, Angel did
No.
it. Right. Good job, Tony.
Sneak under the. I did not sneak away from that. I'm Angel. I am plugging away.
Do better than that. Promote yourself as the wonderful human being that you are. Now, come on.
I'm a wonderful human being.
Angelina.
If only you could know me better, but.
You shall not pass until you tell us more about yourself.
You can find me on, I don't know, Facebook, as I think I'm Angelina Peterson. Actually, it's really impossible to find me there. So Your Adored Life, and then you can find me. That's that. So thank you. And how about that script? So different, wasn't it? It was so crazy that
Like different, but like not totally, but it's like still familiar, but different.
Yeah.
And as Justin has knowledge on, I know Aaron has knowledge on, and more people might. We're going to bring up that that script is different than the movie. And from things I saw in research, that script was like an older script. So one of you go ahead and tell us what you know about how it's different and why it's different. Or Aaron, Justin gave
I'll
you the
go.
floor.
Ladies
All right.
first.
Oh, thank you. So from what I pieced together from what I was researching, so it was originally based on an idea that Brian Froud had. He's the one that designed all the fairies and whatnot, the movie. And then Henson was like, I like it, let's put something together. And then he made some notes and he handed it off to the guy who wrote the theme song for Fraggle Rock. And he wrote a treatment of the movie. And then they gave the treatment to Terry Jones. Who's the author of the script? Terry Jones?
Terry Jones, yeah.
And he didn't like the treatment because it was too poetic. So he threw it away and he just went back to this pile of sketches that they had for all the creatures, because they basically designed all the creatures and cast Bowie and all that before they had the script. And he wrote his script kind of based on what Henson wanted of a girl in her adolescence coming into adulthood, basically. And then Henson didn't really love that script, and they were like very close to shooting, so he secretly had Elaine May of Nichols and May piece together all the scripts. So he took his original ideas, the original treatment, the Terry Jones script, notes that George Lucas gave him, and gave him to Elaine May, who holed up in his house, and she wrote the final shooting script.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
It's too bad all the names aren't on that script credit right now. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Yeah, basically every creative name involved in this movie had something to say about the script. When they found out that they had a David Bowie to work with, producers were like, we have a David Bowie. Why isn't he singing?
Yeah.
Can we make the David Bowie sing?
Yeah.
So they wrote in some numbers for Bowie, and then they wrote scenes to work with those musical numbers, which changed a whole bunch of stuff because more Bowie. Like, we have an international superstar in our film. Why aren't we using him to his full potential?
Yeah.
So, scenes were remixed and moved around to give Bowie more prominence, more screen time, and more singing. And, then of course, when Henson and the other puppeteers got involved, it's like, we can do this. We have this technology. We can make the wild things actually take off their heads and toss them around, and it can be full puppets. You can do that. Have you seen our show? this show that we had in the 70s?
Kermit the Frog can ride a bicycle. So
we've been doing this. We can do this. Oh, you can do that? Okay. We'll make it way more puppet friendly. Can you do this and this? So yeah, once they found out what they were working with, everyone had their hand in it, and it changed into what we saw. But the driving force was, this needs more Bowie. Let's give us more Bowie.
Imagine if in Dune they had Sting singing. Just kidding.
Yeah.
yeah.
Separate movies.
They were all that they had considered Sting and Michael Jackson.
Yep.
But Bowie was the first choice.
All right. Cool.
Speaking of Kermit, where'd you kidnap the Muppet from?
I've never told.
He's mine.
What's his name?
I also heard, if I might interject, that the reason Jareth looked the way he did with the giant codpiece and the long hair was that they wanted that sort of gender neutral, both feminine and masculine, because some of the subtext was that Sarah was becoming a woman and like trying to put childhood away and becoming a woman. And so she hadn't decided, what her attraction was yet. So that's why they gave him both of those features.
That would be very cool and appropriate if they decided to modernize the movie. That would make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan has shown herself to
seems to
be
be
worthy.
Yeah, but Morgan has always been good at those villainous roles, as has Vicky.
I have been obsessed with this movie for years. There's just nothing like it. I mean, I remember being a kid and watching it over and over on my VHS tape. And I just loved it, like all the different details, like the scene where she's going down the hole and there's all the hands that are grabbing her.
Yeah, and that didn't make it in the script either.
Missing.
Yeah.
You
Keep
know
going,
what? I
Morgan.
did.
Sorry.
I did watch a little bit on YouTube to try and, audition. And there's a scene at the end. Actually, I didn't see it in the script. There's a scene at the end, I saw on YouTube where she's like partying in her room with all the little monsters at the end. I remember that because I did actually do research because Clint was all in, oh, you should watch it to do research and all that. And I do listen to people on here because they have very valuable advice. And so, I was watching that, and then I went to look at the script, and that scene wasn't in there, and I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? How's this research going to work?
Like
You
the
get
Wizard
the
of
spirit
Oz
of it.
scene.
Yeah, there were a few, and the in the script it mentioned she recognized her dog down there, but it didn't show it in the movie. Didn't show the recognition of it. So that's something that was in the script and didn't end up.
I noticed
What-
they also changed the whole play at the beginning
Oh yes, yeah,
and that whole intro of that other playwright.
Yeah.
Well, Bowie needed an opening song.
Yeah. What were you about to say, Morgan?
I thought it was interesting that in the script, you definitely note that he's in love with her and trying to her in, but in the movie they don't really show that as much.
Yeah, it's seems more hinted at. I wonder if that's because it would have been probably pretty with the age difference.
I think it was like an interesting thing because, I saw the movie when it came out and I was probably 9, 10, I don't know. And I came home and I was in love with Bowie. And I think that's what happened was that all the little girls became in love with Bowie. That's the first experience I'd ever had of Bowie. I did not know who he was before that. To me, he was just Jareth.
I think the version that ended up being done was more suited towards children, even though to this day my 7-year-old granddaughter won't watch it because of the goblins. And yet they watch horror flicks like they're, she's seen Halloween and yet she won't watch Labyrinth. So I don't know.
Wow.
The scene where they have the heads coming off is super freaky.
Yeah, I remember being scared of it when I was a kid. A little bit, maybe not terrified, but it was enough to be like,
Come on, this is not the scariest Halloween movie out there, it's really not.
Oh no.
If you like disembodied heads, have you seen Return to Oz?
Oh, right. Yeah, and as unique as this movie is, you could tell like there seem like a lot of different references. Like there is like Alice in Wonderland, like did she wake up from a dream? Is this or not? And there's
literally like I don't know why Casper isn't on our list. Honestly, we should do Casper because it's funny as heck.
I did catch something in this script that I thought was interesting, that there's like it was like a fan theory I watched about like, why is Bowie the only human in the Goblin Kingdom? Other than that ball scene, but presumably that could be his imagination. But somebody theorized that somebody had wished him away as a baby and he ended up in this land and he grew up and nobody came to rescue him. And that's how he became the only human. And there was a little hint in this version of the script that might actually tie into that, because there was a line with the wise man. He said something about an outsider and the wise man starts going off about like, oh yes, the alien, the intruder that came. And then he just drifts off. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that was a reference to Bowie. But then at the end of the script, they have him as like turning into a little goblin, like he's maybe just wearing a human as a facade kind of thing.
well, also at the end, like he says the thing that Sarah says is like, why does everything always happen to me? So if that's like showing that that could be her and that could be her future and that's how she got here if she stayed there. A thing I saw about one of the theories too is that her little brother, they said in the script, but I didn't really see it in here, that it showed that he was actually turning more into a goblin. Like he said he's going to turn him into a goblin, but like in the movie they're like, in the movie you don't see it because he has little socks on, but otherwise like his feet were already going to be goblin like or something like that.
Unfortunately, I'm getting a little tired, so I'm going to duck.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Have
a good night.
Welcome.
See you in a week.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care. See you at Clueless.
Yes.
Have a
week is
fetching good
Clueless.
night.
You too. Good night.
That's so fetch. All right. Someone mentioned about this being remade. What are your thoughts, you guys' thoughts on that type of a thing?
No.
I'm not going one way or the other. I'm just asking the question.
Interesting, because like, the puppets were great at the time, but they could be better now, seeing as what they've done with the Dark Crystal show.
I still love the first Dark Crystal the best, but I didn't really give the second one a chance. So.
And there's no Bowie. Who do you
Yeah.
put in Bowie's place?
Do
Lady
Bruno
Gaga.
Mars or something.
Yeah, I don't think you would get the cooperation of the Henson Company if you tried to remake this.
I don't know.
Do it CG. I'm just kidding.
Oh, what about like a Guillermo del Toro version, like Pan's Labyrinth crossover?
Okay, maybe him. Yes, I would be good with that. I will give my permission.
There's another thing I thought while reading it, and something I came across the other day. Like this is probably not the case at all, but like Sarah accidentally called called him like Hogwart, and I'm like, I wonder if that's where what's her name got the name. Like Angelina looked it up, and that's also like the name of a flower. But I'm like, I wonder if that's where she got the name for Hogwarts, because we all take things from things we like and sprinkle it in other things, and
sometimes we don't even know where it came from. It's a memory that we're like, oh yeah, that thing, but maybe doesn't remember that it's from Labyrinth.
I wouldn't necessarily go with a remake, but I would be all in for a sequel.
Oh.
Jennifer Connelly as the mother.
Ooh, yeah. Do you have more to the pitch than that, or just mainly that there?
Well,
Like
I mean,
Hook,
Jennifer Connelly
Hook.
would be the right age for it to play a mother figure. Toby Froud has been cashing in on his Labyrinth appearance since ever. So the brother, the grown-up brother can show up. It can either be Jennifer Connelly's niece or nephew, or it can be Jennifer Connelly's son or daughter that gets enraptured by the Labyrinth.
You do it Little Mermaid 2 style, where it's actually the Goblin Queen, but she just wants to be in the real world. So she wishes her way out.
Yeah, maybe Jennifer Connelly's character, maybe Sarah went back to the Labyrinth and now she rules as a Goblin Queen in her middle age.
And I was thinking at first, well, David Bowie doesn't have to be there because he turned into a goblin, but that was in this and not in
But
the
in the film, he turned into the owl.
Oh.
Right. He could turn back and forth into the owl. He was just a shapeshifter.
The movie could start with the goblin puppet being left in the cabinet. And it's discovered by Jennifer.
One of the kids, or their kids find it, or whatever. She didn't know.
Like her kids or her
I think even maybe
find
grandkids.
it. Yeah. It could be Toby's kids or Sarah's kids that find it. Either or will work. And then either one or the other or both of the grown-up kids from the movie now have to journey back through the Labyrinth. But we also get because then we get the younger kids going on their journey to the Labyrinth, and the older now adults going on their journey to the Labyrinth, and kind of crisscrossing. And it's like, but I went left before and it brought me this way, and now it's completely different.
So you get real wacky, like at the end of the movie version of Labyrinth, when all the guys are there in the bedroom in the party scene, and they say like, if you ever need us, just call on us. And she's like, well, I do need you. And she's like, oh, okay, cool, we're all here.
That would be cool. Yeah.
So they're just like her in a boardroom. She's like, damn it, I need to get this pitch.
Yeah,
I need you, Hoggle.
Yeah, they never left.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the children who end up in the labyrinth are having like the best time. They're just like, this is amazing. And Jennifer Connelly and Toby Froud's characters are trying to regain that sense of wonder. Because when Jennifer Connelly's character first went through, she was a petulant teenager. And I was like, no, you gotta embrace your inner child.
I was watching in prep and being like, God, all she does in this script is whine.
Yeah.
She's like, it's happening to me.
Interesting that she did grow up and maybe the goblin world got forgotten, so it gets overgrown with all the like vines and everything, and all the secret places are hidden from the vines. And
yeah, I mean, it gets into a bit of never-ending story territory.
Yeah, that's like a crossover there with the
everything is powered by imagination and whatnot, but it can be easily worked around.
I mean, and a little bit like the Narnia stuff where they have different ways to come back, or they keep coming back or getting them or something.
Okay, then let's bring in the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And she sees the parallel of who Hoggle is in her real life and Luca, and like you can do that because really, isn't it her subconscious because she was knocked out? So yeah, they're real people in her world.
Seems like it, like in the movie they purposefully have like an etcher, like painting or picture on her wall. The book, like they did in here, is like the poet of the book she's reading is the same as the Jareth, and
a picture on her mirror.
Yeah, and what they shouldn't do is do a beat for beat redo of the original plot points.
No.
And I would say don't even bring back the original puppet characters. I mean, you can maybe have like a very old Hoggle who, like cannot go on any adventures at all.
And the worm turns into a butterfly.
The worm could be a butterfly. I'll allow the worm being a butterfly, but all the original characters and puppets, don't bring them back. No Ludo, no Didymus. This is a chance for the Henson Company to make completely new puppets and new characters.
I would know when you let them go off like that, they make things like the Happy Time Murders.
But what we don't want is a nostalgia-driven cash grab, because it would be an insult to the original film.
Yeah.
I like a little nostalgia, but maybe not. Maybe
yes. See, when you ride entirely on nostalgia, you get Star Wars Episode 7, which is Star Wars Episode 4 with a shiny coat of paint.
All right, no shiny coats of paint. Just
yes. Any other thoughts on the current movie and current script that you guys have or took out?
I just was surprised at how different it felt. It's not even just that there was a lot that was missing in the script, and there was a lot that was missing in the movie from the script. It felt different somehow, and maybe part of that was the little love interest that was more heavily in this script.
Yeah, and another thing someone pointed out before is that when she was dancing in the ballroom, like that this is her dream bubble, kind of like of what she wants, so that she maybe really at that point like wanted to be the princess and wanted to be there with him and stuff. But
I say the ball in this version, and I actually haven't watched the details of the ball in the movie, but the details of the ball in the script are very overtly sexual.
That went right over my head then.
I mean, I caught the thing about the nose.
Lap, and he had a penis-shaped nose, and the guy whispered suggestively into her ear, and she got shocked. And everybody was like, had their shirts open, and girls were winking at her and going into rooms. I was like, damn,
they did that. They had sort of that in the movie. She had a beautiful gown on, and he had the lower cut shirt. I think he always.
I think that's what. Okay.
Yeah.
We all know what the whole true point of the original film was. David Bowie's balls.
Well, apparently that wasn't even an accident. It was designed because they kept trying to make it bigger and bigger, because it was supposed to confront her with that growing up It's almost
You-
like Seeing Red, the new movie.
You mean it wasn't actual size?
It was not. I don't know if it was life size, but I know it was intentionally big.
We will never know.
I like to believe it was life size.
So there you have it.
I had something I was going to say, but now I just lost it.
Was it to do with what you
I
said?
feel like the ball scene wasn't as, for me, watching it as a kid, it didn't make as much sense. Like reading the script, it makes sense. It feels a bit more random in the movie than it does written down in the script.
Yeah, just so plopped in and like out of context or whatever.
Yeah, it was like, because the love interest wasn't so apparent in the movie, seeing them together like that, it's like that was just, it was more hinted and it wasn't like in your face. So it didn't make as much sense to the story as it does in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the script, it feels like he's purposely like bringing her in and seducing her.
Mhm.
But I don't really feel like that is there so much in the movie.
So it's like a comparison in the movie. It's made to look more like it's the Cinderella ball. So it's her fantasy. They show shots of the clock at midnight, and the bubbles are callbacks to the bubbles that Cinderella sees when she's soaping up the floor and stuff like that.
And the age difference would have made it
Yes.
be creepy.
Yeah. 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 And it distracted her long enough or further so that she wouldn't just keep her away from her little brother.
I'm gorgeous and handsome, but I'm not going to go for someone who's 20 years younger than I am.
Were you about to say something, Jacob?
Well, I was thinking some things you pointed out while we were reading is like, well, some like, even though this is an older script, that it still has like some of the shooting direct, it's like angle on and stuff in it. And then again, I've said this other scripts, but this one specifically had like "we see" and like capital letters, like pointing it out when other people say, "Don't say that," and they even put it in caps. And then a thing Angel pointed out is like this one had like big blocks of. I know it's a very visual movie, so they're gonna have points where there's lots of blocks of text without dialogue in between, but they didn't even break it up with like different subjects or gaps and stuff as a lot of more modern screenplays would do. It's just like chunk and stuff.
Yeah.
And good job, Tony, reading all of that. Even the misspelled words, I saw like you hesitated, like this word seems wrong here, but I'm reading what's there. And it was misspelled.
Yeah, some of it. And as usual, I stumble. So, but
Oh gosh,
I got through it.
I didn't realize the wise man had so many words that I don't know. Wise is the wise man. But
I was like, oh my gosh, Angel, good for you. Because I wouldn't have been able to say some of those words. I would have been like looking at the screen forever before I tried to attempt any of those, some of those.
Some of it, who knows if that was correct or not? I don't know. But some of them I knew, of course. But some.
I was glad my character was just copying your character. So whether you said it wrong or not, it's fine if I say it wrong.
I don't know. Yeah. I had something else, but that's okay. Can't remember.
Yeah, I didn't think those words that you were pointing out that were in all caps, like "we see." Why did they? Do you have any idea why they did that?
I mean, I guess they had a way they really wanted to see it. They do that sometimes in screenplays when you don't want to miss something. Like sometimes, and it's more a shooting script where they do like for a sound. Like if there's a sound that you really have to hear and makes it different, they have that sound in all caps or different things.
Yeah. Okay.
But so for them, it was important that we saw exactly that for some reason. I forget what it was now, but yeah, just didn't want us to miss it. But even at the beginning, they started doing some writing without that because they were saying like something about her hair and seeing through her crown. And then later you saw that it wasn't this beautiful dress, it was handmade. And underneath that was her pants and her shoes. So they did all of that, I think, without saying "we see." And that's more the modern way of doing it. So I don't know why. someone else is going to say something. Was it you, Aaron, or?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how often this happens, but when I was watching that essay about it, it was basically saying that like they had all of the puppets designed and all the drawings and everything before they had the script. So it was interesting that he would be writing from designs. I thought that was interesting.
It's definitely
like trying to make a story out of the visuals they already had.
Yeah. Interesting.
Definitely not the way it's normally done, and it worked out.
Yeah, I wondered when we were reading through it, I thought, boy, it's almost like they wrote it for Jim Henson.
But there's this great documentary on Jim Henson. I forget how it got to Sesame Street or the something gang, but they talk about how
Street
when they
Gang. Yeah.
were Street Gang, when they were first going to get him for the Sesame Street type show, like they're like Jim Henson, because all the stuff they did before was a little more adult and crude. It wasn't all kiddie. So we all know him mainly for kiddie stuff, but some of their sensibilities were a little more adult than that.
Oh, you need to watch the coffee ads.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it, but at Not Scary Farm, which I don't know where you guys are located, but in Los Angeles, we have Not Scary Farm, which at Halloween is Not Scary Farm. And this year they had the Henson improv team.
Oh, wow.
And it's specifically Muppet adult improv. So apparently that is something that they do normally, and they go around and tour this.
That's awesome.
And they did some old Henson routines that were adult.
That's cool.
I saw Avenue Q, I guess in New York or whatever, and when we were preparing for this, they call them Fiery, but in here the Wild Things. One of the puppeteers for that, and also puppeteered Red in Fraggle Rock. Like, her name is Karen Prell. I got to work with her on an animated movie before, so I'm like, that was so cool.
That is.
She brought in her puppets and stuff. So Justin, what is your puppet's name? Is it Justin? Doctor?
No, his name is Steven. Steven.
Awesome.
Just goes by one name like Cher, right?
No, Steven Moppet.
Oh, Moppet. Well, Mr. Moppet. He looks
Because
like
I normally take him to Doctor Who conventions, dressed him as the 11th Doctor. So he's Steven Moppet.
Wow. You might have someone to come along with you next time. Not me. Unless I'm around.
I'll usually dress him as the 10th Doctor, and he's dressed as the 11th Doctor. And
that's cool. That's fun.
And because I have to wear a mask at conventions, it makes it much more easier to work with a puppet.
Neat.
That's awesome.
That is.
But yeah, I took some Henson puppetry classes, and it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Okay, so if you're puppeteering for camera, let's see if I can do this. So the puppeteer is way down below, and the puppet is held up with his arm way up high. So the puppet is looking at camera, and the puppeteer has a monitor down below him that, or her, that they're looking at, which is the puppet's point of view. So
cool.
Puppet walks. Puppet walks back. And I really need to get off the floor now.
Awesome.
Very nice.
See, so anybody who loves his voices and wants him to also do puppets and made it this far in our video, hire Justin.
Yeah, like the puppeteer is literally like, there's a trench that the puppeteer is under. So when they work with live actors, like on the Muppet Christmas Carol, the puppeteers were like, 6 feet below, and Michael Caine was 6 feet above them, interacting with, puppets. And it takes a lot of arm strength and that's just for like one puppeteer, single rod. If you're working with like a Cookie Monster or, a 2-person puppet, you got one puppeteer with his hand in the head and the other hand working the arm. Then you have a second puppeteer right next to them working the other arm.
Hmm.
And then you get into the ones that have mechanics in them, like for blinking eyes or eyebrows. So you have a third puppeteer who's working all the servos and the motors, and then if you're Big Bird, Carol Spinney, you have your hand up for Big Bird's beak and head. Big Bird's other hand is attached to his chest, and Carol's moving the other hand with his feet and the legs. And then you have a remote operator doing things like making Big Bird blink and all that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I just looked it up, and that improv adult Henson puppet thing is called Puppet Up.
Pump it up.
Puppetup.com.
Much respect for actors and puppeteers and everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the wise man in the original Labyrinth film was a human in a costume operating the hands, and then the face, eyes, and then the hat was also when the hat was in view of the wise man, it was remote operated. When it was just the hat itself on camera, it was puppeteer.
Neat.
Yeah.
And I saw that Hoggle was played by a woman
Yep.
with a
there was woman
puppeteer
inside.
puppeting her face, and she had to wear mechanical hands because her hands were too small,
Mhm.
and she couldn't really move them or operate or pick up things.
Yep. Same with Ludo. Ludo was a full body puppet, and the face and mouth were operated remotely.
That's awesome.
What was everyone's favorite maze out of it?
Well, I've always loved the Escher maze because it's
Yeah.
Escher.
Yeah.
Mine too. Yeah, it was pretty amazing to see them all upside down, and the part that I liked the most was when Bowie came up from the bottom and just up. That was cool.
Oh, and speaking of puppets and Bowie, and you know that like there was a juggler that was Bowie's right hand when he was doing all the crystals.
Oh,
So he was kind of puppeted himself because he would stand with his arm behind him, and the other guy would be his arm.
oh, that's actually fun to do.
I think my favorite part of the movie Labyrinth is the pit of helping hands.
Mm.
I mean, just the we're helping hands. Yeah, I mean, because so many puppeteers were working on that one.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. I got the
So-
same picture as you, Jacob. I
Yeah,
just took
so,
mine
like-
in Photoshop and took the color out.
Every helping
Okay.
hand is like 2 or 3 different puppeteers working to get those faces working in unison.
There's teamwork. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, super cool. Super
Cool.
awesome and
Look-
new and what?
I was going to say, it looks like they would have been really crowded in that space where they were. Like people would have to stand on ladders or something. And
Oh yeah, it you
Must have
don't
been
get a whole lot of
very
room to stretch
uncomfortable.
out when you're puppeteering.
yeah.
Like
But
Ralph the dog. You need one puppeteer to do both hands for the piano playing, and then you have it was Jim or Frank working the head. So imagine you got your arm up Ralph's head moving the mouth, and then you have another guy in between working around your arms to play the piano.
Takes a ton of talent and hard work, and
And then there's the fact that when Jim Henson and Frank Oz were in the same room together, they never got anything done.
You're gonna say something, Morgan?
I was just going to say that I love that the movie is so detailed with those kinds of things, and it's not CGI, it's real. And it's that special touch that you don't really get anymore because everything is so CGI these days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was actually the problem they had when they made the new Dark Crystal series. And I only watched the first episode, but I watched some behind the scenes stuff. That their first run at it was all CGI. And then they were like, no, this is not Henson enough. So they went back and made it more puppets.
Good.
Yeah.
I think I want to watch that one again soon.
It does seem like the best things are often like the mixture of the two. Of course, the CGI, we can't tell it's CGI, and then with mixing with practical. Again, I'm shocked that Jurassic Park still holds up, because like the CG of that time was not very good. I mean, it obviously was because it worked and it still holds up. But the fact that they mix that in with practical often, it's like, yeah.
Speaking of Dark Crystal,
Texas?
Oh, that's his way of saying, can we do Dark Crystal?
Another good one would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
We thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have it in me for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's
Who could we ever find to play that role?
I don't know.
Only when it's funny.
Exactly. I love that part. You could have taken your hand out at any time.
No, Eddie, only when it was funny.
Yeah.
1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000.
That's one I haven't seen since I was a kid. Yeah, it's so this was what year was this script written now?
Written in the 80s and then filmed, I want to say 1990, maybe.
Was that late? Wow.
I think it came out in the 80s, late 80s.
Yeah, it's interesting the amount
1986.
that
Okay.
script writing has changed in that time. Just doesn't, I guess it's a lot longer ago than I think it is, but it doesn't feel like it's all that long ago.
But also like how everybody's saying how this came together. Like who knows what stage this script was, or if they even stayed with the script at that time, because everything coming from every direction.
Yeah.
Like you guys were bringing out. Cool.
Yeah. Is there anything else anybody wanted to, any insights or thoughts?
That was a lot of insights and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for those. Super interesting.
We've kept these
Yeah,
people
one thing
here for
that-
3 hours. We can let them go.
Yeah.
Thinking
And it was a shorter script, and we're like actually done earlier, even with this long, awesome after.
Only an 80-page script.
Yeah.
yes. And oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you
Well,
go.
some of that
You
I
go.
think could be you. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Don't worry, YouTube viewers. If you change the watch speed to 2 times, this whole conversation will go by a lot quicker.
That's how I watch almost everything on YouTube.
Mhm. So yeah, so those big blocks of action would normally be cut. So some of those pages could have probably been 2 pages minimum that were just shoved into one. So I don't know what it would normally be. Probably at least over 100.
And because we don't have some of the scenes that are in the movies, but
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to handle the musical scenes.
Yeah, and there's
many.
none. Oh,
we had Justin at the end.
that's how.
I was prepared to sing almost every Bowie song.
Well, we have some time.
Sing us up. All right, everybody. Thank you for going into the labyrinth with us and helping us get through that. That was awesome. We'll say the cliche for YouTube things. If anybody's made it this far, or it's your second time here, please like and subscribe and share.
Yeah. Do it.
Yes.
Or the
Click
puppet
the
will
bell
eat your
or-
soul.
Yeah. Click there. Hire all these people as actors. You hear how amazing they are as voice actors and stuff.
And really kind, good people, hardworking.
Yes, fun to hang out with for 3 hours or more every single week.
Yeah. I'd do it
And
again.
nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, you too. So nice to have you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. With that, bye.
See you soon.
See you next week. Later. Bye-bye.